Yo, this your boy Lawrence Ray, also known as LRW3, the host of the Talk to Me Nice podcast, and you're about to watch episode 16. Before we begin, just wanted to give an update on my brother, Mr. Jodeci Braswell. He reached out and let me know the support you all gave him just hours after the last video release was amazing, and I also wanted to personally thank you all for that support. And again, I ask that if you're in a position to help, I don't know your financial situation, and if you can't do it, 100% understandable, but if you are able to help, we would ask that you continue to do so. Again, I'll put the link for his GoFundMe, and I thank you for whatever you're able to do, even if it's just sharing the GoFundMe. As far as episode 16, man, this was the most informative episode we have ever done. As far as the people on this episode, we got my man, Mr. Stephen Bush. He runs a company around financial literacy and bettering your financial situations. Self-explanatory when I say that, why he was on this episode. It became apparent very quickly. He knew what he was talking about, and I can't thank him enough for coming here and giving information that he usually charges people for. That's the goal of the podcast, to give people information that they may not usually have access to. Steven took time out his busy day to give people that, and I can't thank him enough. On another person on this episode, Mr. Ryan Durham. For those of you who don't know, we filmed this podcast in my house, the house that Ryan sold me. I may be biased when I say it, but the best realtor in Middle Georgia. If you're looking to buy a house, there's nobody else you need to call. Ryan, I just can't thank him enough for his busy schedule. Hard-working guy, always working. We even had to pause filming for a second so he can sell a house. That's how hard-working, that's how talented, that's how knowledgeable he is. I can't thank him enough for showing up and doing exactly what he did. We had Mr. Kenya on this episode, the best day trader there is. I'm not gonna lie, when we started the episode, I knew very little about day trading. After speaking with her, man, I learned a lot, man. I can't thank her enough for coming and giving this information. And she also does a class. So if you're interested in learning about day trading, that's the only person you need to be reaching out to. Very knowledgeable. She knows her stuff. Definitely tap in with her if you're into that and you want to learn about that. And of course, I had Miss Bree Jenkins with me. You know, Bree brings the energy. I can't thank Bree enough for sitting down with us. Both me and Bree were just in awe as far as what these great people were telling us. And I can't thank anybody enough for coming out and doing what they did. Without further ado, I'm ready to go and watch this episode again, man. Please have your notebook out. Please have your pencil out. You need to take notes if you got a business, if you want a business, if you're having financial issues. This is the episode. This is a masterclass. I mean, just watch it, take it in, take it serious, and I promise you will learn something. I'm Lawrence Ray, also known as LRW3. This is the Talk to Me Nice podcast, and this is episode 16.
I said you can be the savings. I mean, the biggest thing for retirement, whoever's asking you, is if you're not putting money aside right now, you need to open up an account today and start putting as much money aside as possible, because time in the market is what's going to grow your accounts.
Now let me ask you this, and we don't want, like I said, you charge for this, we're going to give you the general, anything else, you need to hire him. Let's be clear. This is the general, this is the basic version.
Now you just send the bill to him. This is the bill to him.
I'll look at it with you. There are certain things you would prefer a client already have when they come to you to show they're serious.
Say like this. If you fill out your application, you get pre-approved, we go find a house, and you put your earnest money down, that's good enough for me.
But y'all heard him, he said his minimum, so when I start, there's been a few people who be looking for people, and like I send people I know serious to you, but he be like, I ain't gonna waste his time.
Right.
But y'all heard of that.
Now some people, they don't be serious until they get pre-approved. Because a lot of people think that they just can't get it. I help you over beyond, you know, and I really don't broke bread off a lot of my clients.
He did it for me, I give it to him, just to not go too in depth, but like literally, a day before we supposed to close, sun went left, and
Right.
he made it right.
You can't buy happiness, but you can buy local, and that's kind of the same thing. Support what supports you. Here at the Talk to Me Nice podcast, we support all local entrepreneurs. Please contact a local business for any and all of your needs, and when you get there, remember to talk to them nice. True knowledge exists when you realize everything you don't know is something you can learn. The excuse of I don't know how becomes a choice when you never asked anyone to help you find out how. On today's episode of the Talk to Me Nice podcast, I call 4 of the brightest minds in Middle Georgia to teach and hopefully save some people time and money when it comes to financial literacy, budgeting, real estate, debt, day trading, and so much more. Please have a notebook ready, as this episode could literally change your financial future. Remember, don't save what's left after spending, but spend what's left after saving. And most importantly, don't go broke trying to look rich. It comes with the highest honor and gratitude that I humbly ask my well-established, knowledgeable, and respected guest today. Are you ready to talk to me nice?
Alright, so everybody's in the podcast before, right? Yeah, everybody know what they doing. Have you seen them before?
Yeah, I did watch them.
Okay, alright. So y'all know I'm about to ask y'all. Something you don't want me to ask. Anything y'all don't want me to come up, anything like that. You realize, you go home, realize that you shouldn't have said that. Let me know. It'll be edited out. It won't ever.
Every interaction is an interview.
That's true. Now, we all here heard you say it, but you know, we'll be judging you quietly. Don't let it. Alright, so if y'all ready, we're about to start in 3, 2. I do this every time. I just love seeing everybody. Y'all always tense up. That thing is already recorded. Everybody always like, oh, damn, I'm about to start getting recorded. I already got you there.
Okay.
But, alright, so we're about to go ahead and start in 3. Alright, this is the Talk to Me Nice podcast. I am your host, Lawrence Ray, also known as LRW3. And today, we ready to learn. I got some good people with me. We're about to talk about financial literacy. Y'all know how we start this. Round robin, whoever want to introduce themselves first, let them know where they can find you and what you may have got going on.
Ladies first.
Oh, wow. Okay, my name is Bree Jenkins. I am here to learn. I do have a business. It's called Intune Promo, so I just love doing stuff like this. I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
My name is Tiki Williams. I'm currently a day trader, and I'm here to help people teach and learn about trading as well.
Okay.
Alright, my name is Stephen Bush. My brother and I own a family financial planning practice, and I'm here to just kind of talk about my experience. I have a lot of volunteer work in financial literacy and stuff like that, so happy to talk.
My name is Ryan. I'm a realtor and a real estate investor.
One of the best realtors. He actually sold the house we all sitting in right now.
It's a beautiful house, too.
I stand, anybody who asks about a house, I stand by Ryan. I think I just said by too many people. I'm sorry I'm wasting your time, but they be saying they serious at least. Who never knows?
Word of mouth's everything, man.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start like usually how the episodes go. I usually have questions and we kind of go down from there. I got a couple of questions like I told y'all, but of course you don't know what you don't know. So mainly we gonna let these two guide the episode, and of course she's trading, so we'll definitely let her guide it as well. We just sitting here to learn from y'all, but I'll kind of guide it, and then if y'all go somewhere else, we're gonna let you go somewhere else. So basically it's up to y'all. So like I said, a few people hit me with questions, so really I'm just kind of, I got it as topping it off, is that even a real word, as best as I could. But again, if y'all go somewhere else, then we going wherever y'all take us. But,
that works.
so the first topic that came up was budgeting. First off, does everyone have a budget here?
I do.
Yes, indeed.
Now, does everyone follow their budget? Because those are two
Nobody.
different things.
Nobody follows.
That's too many.
Yeah. So what would be some factors that you all have seen that work in your budget, and some looking back that it just wasn't working, if you're being honest?
Realism. You know, I take a step back. Our practice, we have about 1,200 households that we do all like individual financial planning for, and then we work with corporations on their employee benefits and executive benefits and things like that. For the first 5 years of the practice, I spent a lot of time in high schools teaching financial literacy. High school students. I was in about like 30 or 35 high schools a year, and spoke in front of like a ton of students, right? Budgeting was always the first thing we talked about, just because, you know, you gotta build blocks, there's a foundation. And I can tell you that all of our older clients who, you know, our average client is about 65, so most of our clients are older, but whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, or 18 or 16 in high school class, nobody follows the budget. And 99 times out of 100, it's because realism. You know, you don't set realistic goals, or you don't think about cash flow. Like, so whenever we're working with clients on building a budget, my first rule is be honest with yourself, be honest with me. That way we can plan with the right numbers. You know, if you put a budget together and you're not honest about the fact that, you know, you're gonna go run up a $200 check for, you know, that weekend dinner or whatever it is that you like to treat yourself for, then, you know, your budget's always gonna be wrong. And, you know, being wrong makes you feel bad. And finance there's a lot of emotional and behavioral pieces to finance. So you gotta feel good when you do your finance, not bad.
I kind of realized that myself when my budget wasn't working, cause like everybody likes to budget for like the perfect scenario, like if everything goes right.
Exactly.
You got to budget for like, hey, if everything goes wrong,
Always.
this is what happens. I know myself as well. Now people like realism. When I first started my budget, I was like, all right, I got this much for groceries, but I eat out every night, so why you got that much for groceries?
Right.
Or like I had stuff like I had actually put in my budget. That's when my budget actually started working. Like I literally put on my budget just dumb shit. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Because I had to be honest. You like to buy a lot of dumb stuff you don't even buy.
Of course.
So I finally just put that every month. Don't feel bad. You could spend X amount on just dumb stuff, and
Yeah.
the budget is fine. So you're right. Realism is key.
It's also accountability is really important too. You know, like for me, I'm not my own financial advisor. My brother actually handles my finances, and I handle his. Because you gotta have that accountability, you know what I mean? And that's a big part of it too.
Right.
So budgeting is important. People just don't set realistic goals most of the time.
Is
Well,
it
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Because you said that your brother handles your finances. Is it better for you for somebody else to handle your finances compared to you handling your own finances?
Yeah, because most people, whenever they make financial decisions, there's a lot of emotion attached to it, and emotion leads to faulty decisions sometimes. So being able to look at things from outside view allows you to just kind of add just a different perspective.
Yeah, that's emotion. That makes sense because you'll convince yourself it's fine.
Exactly.
Right.
I have clients all the time who call me to ask me if they can do something, and they're not really asking me if they can spend their own money. They're really just looking for somebody to either validate or not validate.
And if you say no, I'm still gonna do it.
Well, and sometimes, and depending on who it is or what the situation may be, like for our clients, again, we implement a lot of behavioral finance techniques in our coaching. So, for some clients, I'll tell them, especially our retired clients, I want our clients to spend their money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should enjoy your money. You work for it. So, spending money is not a bad thing. You just, it's when you make a bad decision that you probably shouldn't make. Well, you're gonna say something.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, there's nothing wrong with setting a realistic goal for yourself, but at the same time, when you're looking at your growth and where you want to go, if you're telling me, like for instance, back in 2017, my goal was to make $10,000 a month. The lady that was advising me, she was like, "Come on, let's be realistic," and I'm like, "This is my goal. This is where." Well, not knowing the full aspect of any financing, she said, "Let's be realistic," and I'm just like, when you let's be realistic, you actually put a cap on what you really want to do. So when the whole budget aspect of it, you can be realistic overall, but it's a thin line in that realistic world and actually setting yourself back, because at that point you start taking away that drive and that that become that plan B versus, okay, I'm gonna go hard for the budget that I want. So if you want a $5,000 budget or a $10,000 budget, but the person next to you that's supposed to be helping you with your finances telling, well, let's be realistic. That's not what you're making right now. Let's be realistic. I know what I'm making right now. If I'm not in the negative every week, if the food is in the house or the kids is taken care of, and I'm telling you this what I want, I just feel like, don't come at me with let's be realistic. It's more so how you gonna help me get to 10K.
Yeah. Well, and so let me piggyback and clarify on that. As far as outflows go, be realistic. As far as inflows go, reach for the stars.
Yeah, like I said, every
yeah, I 100. I actually, have you ever read Think You Grow Rich? Have you ever heard of? So I'm a big advocate of, like, as far as inflows and what you're aiming for. I say shoot for as high as you can even imagine, because
Okay.
if you shoot for the stars, you fall in the cloud. You know what I mean?
I say truth, but
So yeah, I agree with you, 100%.
If in your mind you can hit 10K, if somebody else's mind they can only hit 5, both of you all could be right. So
Right,
I don't think
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
should cap you off on that.
Right.
No, nobody should ever restrict. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
on
so
that.
ever since then I had a real funny vibe, like when, like, you know, people come up and they want to offer you assistance on the finance side, and you know, you just, after something like that, you become real cautious.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, those still spirits, those still things that people putting out there on you, and you can come in the house and say you're gonna help me, but subconsciously you telling me like, yeah, you can't do that.
Well, like, and you know, like I said, like, you know, money. I mean, I'm probably gonna say it 1,000 times tonight. Money is emotional. So if you have negative thoughts towards it, you know, it's only gonna be negative. You know, negative energy.
Especially
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta speak it into existence.
Yeah. And with that, as far as like work with people, like I work with, he's not, you know, you're talking about already. We've been filming what, 5 minutes? But that goes back to, like you said, you dealt with one person, she kind of gave you a bad vibe, but still got to keep an open mind, because like, even to give you your credit, there's a lot of people who say they were looking for realtors. Now, every time I get a realtor, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. Call Ryan. You know what? I like him. He acts like you know what you're doing. So, same thing. Never take one to just decide for them all.
No, always.
Now, let me ask y'all this. How much, this is a question somebody sent me, how many months should I set aside for an emergency fund?
6 months to a
I
year.
know,
I heard 6 months to a year.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's what.
That's kind of like the standard.
Depends. Yeah, I mean, it depends on. I will say one idea that most people that may help on that, by the way, is you want to keep 6 months to a year. But one tactic that we use is called tiered savings, where let's say you're doing the 6 month option, right? Like me and my wife, I keep 6 months in cash essentially, and 3 of those 3 months worth of our expenses are in real cash, like in my savings account. And then the other 3 months are in a money market account where they're getting more like 2.5% instead of the 0.01% that your money gets you, you know, the savings account gets you. And so, you know, a lot of people are kind of scared to have their money in different accounts because they think it's going to take a long time to get to it. But as far as like money markets and things like that, you know, a lot of those can be set up to where you can get to the money in 3 or 4 days. And you know, how often have you come across a point in your life where you need 6 months of your savings at one time within a week? You know what I mean? And so just a little bit of growth, you know, instead of sitting in the savings.
Now that's the personal side. If you're trying to open up a business on that, you need to have a year to a year and a half.
Oh yeah.
And that's your break-even mark.
So the people who might ask, because we just had a business podcast, and they might follow up with this one. Why would you say you need a little bit more for the business, just in case?
Because a business, starting a business is a big risk, and it's a liability.
True.
So if you don't cover yourself and you don't have, you can open your business today or next week, and you probably won't see a customer for a month. You know, just because your business open doesn't mean you're gonna make a return.
Last episode we asked them when they start making a profit. They said like 3 years. So that's
Exactly. It definitely takes time, and if your expenses, let's say hypothetically your expenses every month, and for capital is $2,000, but you only bringing in $500-$600 in your business starting out, you negative. You know, and if you're negative, rent gonna be due every month, lights gonna be due every month, internet, the essential things you're gonna need to run your business, those things still gotta be paid. So if you don't have that saving, that just in case money, you can sink quick. That's why a lot of businesses don't make it that first year.
Well, and to tie it into the personal financial literacy piece, one of the biggest questions that most people have is around credit and debt. And I volunteer with a group called Operation Hope, that if anybody has any questions about debt or anything like that, Operation Hope is an incredible group. They have a lot of resources. I personally, when we started our business, I took out a loan, a credit card, maxed those out. And when I was in Atlanta before I started the practice with my brother, I was working for a company at 19, $85,000 salary a year. I mean, I was cash. But I left that to go, you know, something that's not guaranteed. Didn't have the right savings. I maxed out my debt, my credit card. At one point, my credit score was, in the 400s. I was tapped. Went through debt consolidation, all that stuff, all while building a business. Probably about a year and a half into it, and we've been very blessed, since. But starting out on any business is tough, and the biggest thing with debt is once you're in that cycle, it's
hard.
real hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree. It really depends on what you need the money for. To kind of determines how much you should have set aside.
I like what you mentioned about the multiple accounts, because I got multiple accounts too.
Yeah.
When I was buying my house, I ain't tell the situation. I only told Ryan I had one account, but I had three. So we had a whole situation. What do you need this money for? Like, yo, it's my money.
I will say, if you ever decide to work with any professional, taxes, realtor, anything like that, tell them all the details.
I wasn't trying to hide
No, I
it, but they asked, they said, well, what accounts do you need that you want to be considered when buying a house? It's the only one I want you to consider. So,
but they don't teach you that.
Yeah.
They don't. Nobody taught you why that stuff matters.
True.
You know what I mean? Like underwriting. You know what I mean? Like, that's a term I never heard until I was out.
One thing I can say though, in your aspect, if you are thinking about buying a house, now you don't have to disclose all your accounts. Alright, especially if you got enough money to cover your down payment, your closing costs.
Yeah, because I was big. Only thing I kept asking him was, how much do I need to have? That's the only thing that's gonna be in this account.
So, and when you're going through your home buying process, within 48 hours they got to give you a loan estimate to show you exactly what's coming out. But if you got multiple accounts, because I got multiple accounts, I got multiple accounts, my wife got multiple accounts, and it's not that anything sneaky. It's just one account is just for savings, one account for the mortgage.
Exactly.
One account may be for vacation or something like that. You don't want your money to start intertwined with your expenses. That it's not supposed to be. And that's how you keep yourself out of the negative too.
Yeah, that's true. So, $1 million question somebody asked me: how much will I need to save to fund my retirement?
That's another.
Don't put that in the IRA.
I'll tell you for $7,500 and a lot of your documents. It all depends on what retirement you want to live. Actually, we have a lot of clients that say they don't know when they're going to retire. We have a lot of clients that say I want to retire at 45 or 50.
Right.
All that stuff is possible. Depending on how early you start thinking about it and how aggressive you can be with savings. The biggest thing for retirement, whoever's asking you, is if you're not putting money aside right now, you need to open up an account today and start putting as much money aside as possible, because time in the market is what's going to grow your accounts.
Now let me ask you this, and we don't want, like I said, you charge for this, so we're going to give you the general. Anything else, you need to hire him. Let's be clear. This is the general. This is the basic version.
Now you just send the bill to him. It'll be right. Just send the bill to him.
Send the bill to me. It ain't going to get paid. You send it to me. I'll look at it with you.
I will say that there are some free tools that you can use. There's a company called BlackRock that is a massive assets company. They're the largest asset manager in the world. They actually have a tool called iRetire. So if anybody is interested in fooling around with that stuff, just look up BlackRock iRetire, and it'll have you type in incomes and project out what you need to set aside, things like that. So that stuff is not always 100% accurate, and there's a lot of nuances there, but kind of
better than nothing.
Better than nothing. For
But
sure.
you can't just dump money to the retirement. There is a cap every year that you can.
I was about to ask.
6,000.
So would y'all say somebody's better off maybe having a separate account for their own retirement, or keeping a 401k with their job?
Both, really.
Both. And it actually depends on what type of level. Like he mentions contribution limits. Retirement accounts. The main reason people actually put money in retirement accounts is because they grow on a basis that's called tax deferred.
Right.
And what tax deferred means is at the end of the year, you don't have to pay capital gains tax on the gains. There's income tax. At the end of the year, you pay income tax on the money you earn, and then for your investments, in most cases, you pay long-term capital gains. If you held it for less than a year, it counts as income tax that you have to pay. But those tax rates are very different, and the money that you put into retirement accounts, there's special tax treatment on them. Your 401k, under the age of 50, you can put $19,500 a year into, and a lot of times you get a match, if you've heard of that, with your employer. IRAs, this is definitely what he was on, $6,000 a person, up to age 50. Once you're older than 50, you can do an extra $1,000. Health savings accounts are also effective retirement vehicles. If you own a business, you can open up what's called a SEP, which is a simplified employee pension plan. It's an IRA, but it allows you to put up to $53,000 a year into it, up to 25% of your income or $53,000, whichever one's higher or lower. Sorry, but basically, there are a lot of options as far as what to put it in, and the biggest factor that you really want to take advantage of over time is tax deferral. And most people really like Roth or pre-tax. Anything pre-tax, you pay the taxes. I'll give you some information about retirement planning if they're interested in that. Pre-tax, your regular traditional 401k, your IRA, most people are familiar with. You put the money in there, and you don't pay the taxes this year. You pay them whenever you pull it out. On a Roth, which you're definitely probably familiar with, with a Roth, you put money in, you pay the taxes this year, and you pull the money out 20, 30 years from now. Now, the reason why it's really important from a planning perspective to think through that is that you really want to think about when you're pulling the money out, would it be cheaper for you to pay the taxes today or pay them 30 years from now? Nobody can really answer that question, right? But I will say there's a lot of macroeconomic factors and pieces of the market at play that kind of indicate that taxes are going to increase. I would be hard pressed to believe that tax rates are going to decrease in the next 20, 30 years. But if they don't, right, we always recommend trying to do a balance. Trying to do half pre-tax, half after tax.
Tell them where they can hire you at. We know what you're talking about right here. This is a masterclass.
I talk to a lot of people, but I love this stuff. So
That's good.
So, will there be Social Security when we retire?
I believe that there will be a form of Social Security. The Social Security system has defaulted 5 to 7 times in the last 60 years. If you look at the history of the changes, when they changed the age, it's bankrupt. That's why they changed the age. I think there'll be a system like that. I don't know what it'll be. I will say that I would plan on it not being. I would approach our age and our generation. I would approach retirement planning as if you are the only person saving money for you, because chances are you probably are. I would be. What about your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. Our generation before us is known that when it comes down to that age group, we are some of the most richest one when it comes down to the age group, as far as like with grandparents or the parents, just because the quality of living.
Yeah.
Now, for myself, people thought I was crazy leaving a secure job as a firefighter to do real estate. And then as soon as you get into real estate, COVID hit. So, everybody's thinking that real estate was going to pan out, like drop, foreclosure everywhere, and it did the complete opposite. It did the complete opposite. So, and I bet it on myself, and if I didn't do that, I'd still be working at the fire department.
This is a seller's market right now.
It's a complete seller's market.
They're not.
It's an agent's market.
That too, because I heard them sellers, they ain't negotiating nothing. They ain't giving you nothing on anything.
Like the deal, what happened with you and the terms that you went on your contract is completely different now. Completely different. And when we talk about retirement and IRAs, don't forget that real estate is one of the biggest things when it comes down to passive income and just that whole dynamic of getting income each month. So even if you got a secure job, you can invest in a property. Let's say you get it for $50,000. Put a little money into it. You can rent it out each month, or you can flip it and sell it and get capital gains. At that point, if you're using it in a business entity, you said you can go up to what, $53,000?
Yeah.
Or 25% of their income.
Yeah.
So let's say you make $100,000 a year off of real estate. 25% of that can go into that.
Exactly. That's what we do.
So now you multiplying. So that whole retirement thing, you can't just think about your earned income. Your earned income, because you got portfolio income and like with day trading, and you got the passive income.
Yeah.
And a lot of people miss that. That's some of the easy way to make money. You gotta work for it, but it's not as tedious when it comes down to earned income. So with earned income, you got a supervisor, they got a supervisor, you got the white collars, you got the blue collars, and nothing wrong with working with anybody, but when you start getting into passive, and portfolio income, you become your own boss.
Some of our wealthiest clients are blue collar / rental landlords. Rental income, real estate's an incredible investment. Diversification is everything.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of things you can do with it too. I mean, what you were just mentioning, that's what we do. Is we do layering where we'll have somebody own 10 properties. You have 10 separate businesses or LLCs to keep the liability separate because they're renting it, so you don't want them all to fall in on each other.
Right.
And then we have a parent company that collects all the income, and the retirement accounts are set up in the parent company, and that's what the income is based off of. It's
Right.
yeah.
So
it's a great investment.
Right. And when it comes to, no matter what, like you said with the LLC or incorporation, sole partnership, no matter how you do it, you always want to protect your asset. So when you talk about multiple LLCs, I don't mean you just go out and just make them up just because they gotta be backed by something. They gotta be backed by something.
Well, they own the property.
Right. So each property
is owned by a separate
10,
LLC.
you know, if you got multiple ones, but just overall, you got to make sure that you're protecting your assets. You know, don't let a liability take away your assets. For instance, and this is free game for whoever want to listen. A lot of talk now it has been with the PPP loan and LLCs. All right, a lot of people don't understand is if you got an LLC and let's say you get some in the court for somebody sue you or whatever, and if you don't have a resolution book and a resolution certificate, you can't even speak for your LLC. So you thinking, oh, this is my business, got my business. Let's say you own a hair store.
Now, for the people who don't know, because I don't know, what's a resolution book?
A resolution book it's like
That's what I mean.
a resolution book is like
Y'all just go sit there like y'all do. Resolution. I know exactly what that is.
It's like a minutes. Pretty much, you keep a documentation of everything that goes on every journal, and it comes with a seal. So your business will actually have its own seal on it. In the front of that book, you got a certificate that pretty much states that you are the owner and you can speak on behalf of this business. Anytime, let's say you want to pay yourself out of your LLC. Because most people think that you can credit LLC, get a business account, just transfer money over to your account. You can't do that. If it's not in that book, you pretty much money laundering, bank fraud, Fed time. You know, so you gotta protect yourself. So whenever you put in notes in that minutes, you stamp it, and with that stamp it's a seal.
Basically, you're auditing yourself.
You audit yourself, right? Because you get in front of a judge, and let's say you got a storefront, somebody falls hit the head. Now they want to sue you. You come in, they take you to court. Well, what happened? Well, your honor, they came in. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm the owner. What do you got to show for it? Oh, I got my letters of corporation. I got my EIN on.
Anybody can do that.
Yeah, that's anybody can access that. So now,
PPP loans, everybody got it.
Right.
They gonna post.
Exactly. So now what's your extra security? You know, now what you got? Do you got any type of liability insurance? You got EOS insurance? You got EO insurance?
Do you even have a county license?
Exactly. So at this point,
because a lot of people think if they just get it, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it too. As long as they get their tax, they can do whatever they want. But that's just cute. That's just cute.
I'm gonna say this. Everybody pause. Do you own a business? If the answer is yes, say yes. The second question is, do you know what an operating agreement is? Because if you don't have an operating agreement in place, you actually don't really own that business, because if something happens to you, the state decides what happens with it.
exactly.
So if you don't have an operating agreement in place, you need to go do one immediately, because that's how you determine how the money's supposed to flow and who owns what and what happens to the business if you pass. I can't, we work with a lot of business owners and family businesses mostly, because we're a family business, just kind of attract that. And I cannot tell you how many times we sit down with a business owner that has, and I mean substantial, and I mean buildings that you drive by, I mean assets, and they have absolutely no plan of what happens with those things. Because all they know is, I worked the business, I built the business, I'm a multi-millionaire. People just don't know. That's one misconception about financial literacy is that, I've met a lot of people who don't have a lot of money that don't really know a whole lot about financial literacy. And I grew up poor, so that's how I started. I've met a whole lot of people who have a whole lot of money that don't know anything about financial literacy. It's just because somebody has money doesn't mean they're smart with it. And so, just on the business side, I just want to throw that out there that there's a business ownership is great, but to your point, you gotta make sure your ducks are in a row.
Right. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, I work hard for this. I put blood, sweat, and tears into this." But what are you doing to protect it now? Now that you got it, what are you doing to protect it? Because you get sued, and let's say you got to cough up $1 million in bodily injuries or anything like that. What are you gonna do now? Because now you bankrupt. Now you got to file bankruptcy, all this other stuff, and once that happens.
And people are a whole lot quicker to take something than they are to build something on their own.
Oh yeah.
That's somebody who makes claims.
Yeah, I know you know that.
Most people, and that's a question that go into y'all talk about best way to protect. These are questions like y'all already jumped and got those.
Awesome.
So best way to protect your assets, y'all kind of talk about that. Is carrying the minimum insurance legally required to save money a smart idea?
I'm
gonna say as far as insurance goes, no, because minimum bodily injury in Georgia is $25,000.
That ain't
if you break somebody or kill somebody, they want more than $25,000. I'm just leaving it there. So if you get sued, they gonna start looking at what else you got. Yeah, you might have saved money month to month. I hear it every time.
They gonna seize your account.
Oh man, I should have.
Right,
Is it too late? Yeah, it's too late. You can change it now, but it's only gonna help you in your next accident.
Right.
They ain't taking everything for this one.
So and you have to disclose it, and they will find out.
They will find out. They will get an affidavit.
Right.
Get everything you own.
Everything you own. So
everything your mama own. That's the thing. That's the horrible thing about I can speak to insurance. Let's say, just because let's say you hit somebody and we all live with you, they taking all our stuff if we under the same roof. So it's not just you.
Yeah, liability is subjective.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, really, when you think about it.
Liability is if on the next person.
Yeah.
If you get, even if you don't even, we all live here. Let's say you got other friends who live somewhere else. If you ever got mail there, and they can prove you never stopped getting mail there, they take all their stuff too.
Yeah, you would be the right person to answer that question. I mean, I'll add some more protection stuff. Because so people they're worried about their driving. Mm-hmm. You know what people also don't ever insure? Their paycheck. Mm-hmm. Disability insurance is one of the most inexpensive and widely available and easiest to qualify for insurances out there. And I cannot tell you how many people we come across who don't have any type of disability insurance to replace their income.
What about life insurance? I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm tired of seeing people get buried off of GoFundMe.
Right.
So why? I mean, let's be honest, man.
I will say, so I'm what's called a dual license fiduciary. It means that I'm both securities licensed for all the investment stuff, and then I'm also insurance licensed. Okay. So like when we go through a planning process, we look at everything under the sun, every aspect of it. So like life insurance, we do that. Investments, we do that. We do everything. Life insurance inherently has a really bad vibe for some people. One, because people don't want to talk about death, but also our industry can be very unregulated when you don't have the right licenses. So it can be really easy for people to just sell product or push things that really may not be in the best interest of a client. I can tell you from a life insurance perspective, I have ran over 5,000 meetings in the last 7 years. I've maybe met 2 or 3 people who have the adequate amount of life insurance. When you run the data and you run the numbers on your lost earnings, how much you got a daughter, don't you? You got a child?
Mm-hmm.
How old is she?
I got 2 kids. I got a son who's 6. I might be wrong. I'm very bad with it.
No, you're good.
Baby girl 3.
All right. And I don't. Brianna handles it on my Facebook. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm sorry. All right, 2 kids. So it would be fair to say that your income is expected for another 13, 12 years, roughly, if you use that math, right? And let's say that you earn $80,000 a year right now, right? So 80 times, so what's that, 1.2 million, maybe roughly, close to that, over the course of those 13 years, not accounting for inflation, not accounting for the idea that you're ever going to get a raise, ever going to make more money, ever going to have another child, have any other change of life. That's just the value that says if you passed away today, here's today's value that you bring to your child. That's not including education costs. That's not including the future you want for your children. So I can't tell you how many times I sit down with somebody and we're talking about, $2 million of life insurance, and and that's a small number. When you really look at the impact you have on your financial future and the legacy you want to build, it's a problem. People don't have adequate life insurance. I mean, that's a big one. That's a real big one.
We are back with the Talk to Me Nice podcast. We took a quick break. As we had Mr. Businessman had to close another deal, of course. Y'all know y'all be doing it.
That's facts. Good
Y'all know
job.
that's what he does.
That's the grind.
And we're going to transition because I had some real estate questions for you anyway, so that's just the perfect way to kind of lead into that. Is it smart to buy a house right now?
Yes, and it depends on if you're ready to buy a house right now. I'm gonna say it like this: there's a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a seller's market. This, the market gonna crash." But honestly, like, this is the best time to buy because it's not gonna go down. Like when the market crashed in 2008, all those financial institutions that lost money in real estate, they put guidelines in place to make sure they wasn't gonna lose their money no more. So they protected their assets like we just talked about. So that's why when COVID-19 hit, you see the market take off. It's because the essential workers, they was all secure. So everybody that getting a home loan are people that are securing finances. If you pay attention, if you're not securing your finances, they're not giving you money, then you're not getting pre-approved for a home. So as long as you got a secure job and you got the credit to back it, having some savings, depending on what you want to spend, I'll say a good amount to have saved anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Not necessarily saying you're gonna have to use that money, but it's best to have it in case you do. So yeah, this is the best time. I mean, you can see for yourself. I'm not gonna put your numbers out there, but you 50K up on the resale of your house. So
I was about to say because I bought this house because I figured that because he gave, this is why I tell everybody come to him. He already gave me the game, but like common sense, when I bought this house, just to kind of get details, they were still building this neighborhood. So
right.
I remember when we was running the numbers, it was one house that was already, like I think the house down the street is on the corner now. They did a lot of things to their house, but that house sitting around like $300K already. Yeah. And that's why I think you explained it to me. Basically, your house is worth like kind of the average of the neighborhood.
Right.
So I realized, all right now it's a few $200,000 houses here,
right.
but now it's a lot of $200,000, $300,000 houses here. So just off that, my house goes up too because you now have a $250,000 neighborhood because of the average of everybody's house.
Right, and there's nobody that's going to be able to predict that anyways. Anybody that would look at the last year with COVID and say that they have any idea where the real estate market's going to head, is just not paying attention to what's happening to our country. I mean, you look at how many people are moving and displaced, voluntarily moving. Like the real estate market could be this hot forever.
Right.
There really is no telling.
I can say this: in America, 1% of all the U.S. Citizens are looking for homes. So that means we're 400 million houses short of the demand, which means a seller's market gonna be around for a while. The only thing you gotta decide is: are you gonna be in the seller's market 2 years from now, or are you gonna be in the seller's market now? All right. And especially when you're buying in a developing neighborhood, because in a developing neighborhood, every 4 to 10 homes, the price go up. Right? It's always based on the last appraised house. So
that kind of go back to me because again, it's like 10 houses that's here now since we got here.
I know for a fact. I know for a fact you can move out your house, and this is where financial is. This is where capital gains come in. You can move out your house now, put it on the market, possibly have a bidding war. Let's say your house is worth, just throwing a number out, let's say your house is worth $250, all right? But you got 10 people that want your house. You talking about people come out here offering cash to buy homes. So they say, okay, we know what your house is worth. I give you $300,000 plus the $10,000 over the appraised value. So the money that you spent to buy your house, you just made possibly another $50 to $100K from your property. Right.
And again, to give him his praise, I didn't spend much to get this house.
Right.
Because
it wasn't even close. Right. And I'm in the same predicament. I got my house built in a developing neighborhood. Now they done with it, but it's holding the value because of the demand of it. Right. So when you looking at if it's a good time, you can buy a house like you did last year, sell it this year, and come up 50 G's easy. So that's something that you gotta make a decision for yourself.
You actually, the most important part, like you said, was like, don't buy a house unless you're ready for it. You know what I mean? Like the golden rule of anything with value is that people will pay what they want to pay for it. Like don't buy a house, don't pay more than you think the house is worth. You're going to be the one living in it. And if you think you're buying it for too much, how are you going to sell it to somebody?
That's true. That goes back to me and Ryan. There was another house in this neighborhood that we looked at first that I kind of liked, so I came to this one, and it wasn't a big price difference. And I was like, this looked like a $200,000 house.
See, and
The other one did not look like a $180,000 house.
And that's why, like, when people look at the market and say, oh, the market's hot. But yeah, but like, if you feel like it's a fair price, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The only difference that I can say is in a seller's market, a buyer really, you got negotiating power, but you don't really have a lot of negotiating power. You get what I'm saying? Because it could be night. I don't lost many bidding wars to other buyers that I'm up against 19 different people.
Yeah.
And my buyer can't even compete with them.
Cash.
You know, you cash like
in here.
yeah, you know, 200,000 cash. You know.
But it's not easy though. That's like everything else. Is like for me and my wife, you know, the house we ended up in. The only reason we ended up getting that one was because the previous buyer fell through. You know, like it was on the market for like 3 days, got a cash offer, that ended up falling through after like 2 months of underwriting. I don't know why, it was cash, so I don't know what the deal was, but it ended up not happening, and then we stepped in and got it. And I'm glad we weren't in a bidding war because we would.
If I got in the bidding war, I would have lost something.
Yeah, I mean for real. Like we got lucky.
Let's keep looking, Ron. We getting this one.
Oh, it's serious. I don't work with people for 6 months looking for house actively. Like, actively looking for house. We going out every day, every other day, sending houses every day to try to find a house.
It's crazy.
And it just, you know,
Meant to be.
Yeah.
Do you work for a company or is it just you?
I got my own company, Durham Realty Group, but because I'm not a broker yet, a broker holds my license.
Okay.
And I'm out of Palmer House in Atlanta.
Okay.
Now let me ask you this, because I do send, like I try to send many people I know to you. So when you're working with a client, is there certain things you would prefer a client already have when they come to you to show they're serious?
I'll tell you like this. If you fill out your application, you get pre-approved, we go find a house, and you put your earnest money down, that's good enough for me. You know, because I don't, grew up the way I grew up, it's easy to say, oh, you can't get that. You know, you can easily write somebody out thinking they're not prepared. And even if you think it, if you don't say it, that person could very well. And I had a 20-year-old that I just closed on. She's still in college. Just bought a house in June.
Jeez.
But I never said he wasn't serious. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, what I look for is, you know, when you reach out to me, and if you say you don't have a lender and I refer you over a lender, and you do that application, you get pre-approved, you start looking, and you submit your earnest money to go through that underwriting process, and you pay your appraisal. You know, once you get to the appraisal part, you already know they solid. But the biggest thing is, did they fill out the online application, or did they get pre-approved? Because we're not going to look at no houses until you get pre-approved. Right, you gotta have that pre-approved first. And a lot of realtors, when you set an appointment to go look at a house, they want to see the pre-approval first, because it's a lot. It's not just my time you wasting. You got like 3 other people.
Watch the HGTV and look at houses. Like,
so, as long as you have a sense of being real, and you know how I am, I help you over beyond. You know, and I really don't broke bread on a lot of my clients.
He did it for me. I gave it to him, just to not go too in depth, but like literally a day before we supposed to close, sun went left, and hey, he made it right.
Man, it don't went to what I did roof work for clients, you know, to make sure that the house sells for them, you know.
It's all about finding people that help themselves.
Right, yeah,
and somebody's helping themselves, I'll do everything.
And like sometimes that's just like, hey, yeah, you might be breaking bread. That's an investment. Like the same way you made it right. Yeah, about 6 people. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So hey,
that one right now.
Whatever he did,
exactly.
whatever he did, he done earned it plus some back. So But y'all heard him. He said his minimum. So when I start, because there's been a few people who be looking for people. And like I send people I know serious to you, but they be like, "So I ain't gonna waste his time." Man.
Right.
But y'all heard him now.
Yeah. Now some people they don't be serious until they get pre-approved. Because a lot of people think that they just can't get it. So they be iffy about it. Well, my credit. I had somebody reach out to me. They said, "Oh, my credit ain't good enough." I was like, "Well, what's your credit?" I got about 650.
Ain't like 620 the minimum you need to really start.
Now,
as far as like a
pre-COVID, it was 580, and it's getting back down to that with FHA.
580.
Yeah, 580. Because the thing is, when you start getting into government insured loans like FHA, USDA, they have their own requirement, but it's up to the actual lender. So let's say you go with Homestar, they want you to have the 620 FHA because you got the secondary market. All right, this is the primary market where you're getting out, but as soon as you finance that loan, they turn around, they package it, and they send it out with a group package, and they make money off of it. That's how the money keeps circulating. So, everybody, I hear people say, well, I'm gonna wait till the market go back down. It's not gonna make a difference because your interest rate gonna go up.
And I'll give you a fun history lesson. What he just described, them packaging out the mortgages after they take all these new loans in, package them up, and they sell them off to banks. That's what caused the 2008 financial crisis. What happened was those packages that they were selling off to other banks, they weren't truthful about how poor the mortgages were.
Right.
So back then they were writing loans on people that couldn't afford them, which is what he mentioned earlier. Now the banks are supposed to have much stricter rules in place to make sure that people can afford a home.
And that's why if you notice, a lot of our grandparents had like 3 or 4 homes. Because the only thing you needed was a job. When you got a job and you can show you can make the mortgage, they was giving you the loan, but you was getting that adjustable rate. So today your interest might be 2%. Next month you can jump up to 19%. So, but they doing away with it. It's still an option, but they usually just go fixed rate now.
And I was about to ask you, I think that was a question somebody asked me. Well, I guess, we'll jump right to that. 15 or 30 year, which is better, and does fixed rate or adjustable rate matter, was the question.
It does matter. So you can get a fixed rate. Like I had someone got locked in at a 2.3 interest rate for 30 years fixed. It's not going to change the life of the loan. There's always a big difference when you're talking about 15 year and 30 year. But that's gonna be based on how much you can afford each month, because you got to think if you get a $200,000 home and you say, well, I want to go 15 year, that mortgage is gonna go up. So where you possibly could have been paying $1,000 to $1,100 a month on a 30 year, it just jumped up to like $1,900 to $2,100 a month on a 15 year, because you still got to pay it off. And if you don't, you can have something called a balloon, which means at the end of that term, all your payment is due at one time unless you refinance the property.
And to tack onto that, the financial planning answer for most people is the longer the loan, the more interest you pay. That's why people want a shorter loan. But for emergency sake, if you're still in your earning years or you're working, or you got a family or something like that, usually what we'll talk to people about is take the longer term. That way that your monthly payment is lower, but just pay extra while you can afford it.
Right.
That way if anything ever happens and you can't afford it, you have an emergency, you're not stuck with a $3,000 mortgage payment, now you're $1,500. You know what I mean? So
Or something you can do, because as you know, whenever you get a home finance, you got an escrow account. Right? That's where they pay your homeowner's insurance and taxes out of. You can actually pay into your escrow account for that year. So let's say your escrow, let's say your escrow have to be a year $3,500. You can drop $3,500 in there at the beginning of the year and ask for an analysis on your escrow. They'll go through and look at it, and the escrow will drop your payment down to where your principal and interest is. So now you're only paying that $700 or $600 a month.
Yeah. So instead of taking that tax refund and buying something to treat yourself with,
right? You throw it in your escrow. Now you paying a part of the price.
Because at the end of the year, something about escrow. My first year, I only had the house 1 year, but I didn't know anything. But
we do debt management modeling. We'll take credit cards and loans and all that stuff, and figure out the quickest, cheapest way to pay it all off. And whenever we do that modeling for people, sometimes it'll save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. Especially with student loans, saves them tons and tons of money.
Now let me ask you this: should you sell your current property before buying a new one?
Depends on where you are. So each one of them questions is based on each individual.
Yeah.
Alright. So because whenever you financing a home, as you know, they're gonna look at your debt income ratio. Now, if you're at a position where your income and your debt income ratio is less than, I'm gonna say 40%, because most times they want you to have anywhere from a 46% to 59%, not 59, we'll do like a 52% debt income ratio. If you're under that 40%, you'll be able to finance another home, right? But if you're in that realm, they're not gonna do it, and
You can't afford to.
right, you can't afford to. So now you get a new home is contingent on the sale of your current property.
That's why some people end up like staying with friends or family.
Right, or you can do a same day closing if the buyer agreed to, where you close on your house, the current house, and then go close on your new house on the same day, and you just roll over from escrow to escrow.
Not to mention the biggest error that like we see people make when it comes to financials is they pay too much attention to the what, but they don't ask themselves like the why. Like if you were to just ask yourself like, why would you sell your home first, right? You could be doing like a 1031 exchange where you're rolling money over. There's a way to avoid taxes on the sale of property and things like that. By like, especially if you're a real estate investor, you're doing rental properties, right? I mean, there's certain like maneuvers that you can do. Taxes is your biggest expense that you'll pay over your entire lifetime. I don't know if you know that or not, but that's where the majority of your money will go. And so from a financial planning perspective, a lot of decisions you should just ask the why. Why would you use this account, or why would you do this? And when you start to ask those questions, you start to figure out how to really do it.
Before you move on, I'm gonna say this because a lot of people just don't know. I had to learn myself. Alright, when it comes down to real estate and taking advantage of your situation. Alright, if you go FHA requires you to stay in that property 1 year before you can actually use it as a rental property. Right? But when it comes down to you getting another property, you're gonna say, well, how do I make this a rental property and get another property? Well, once you turn into a rental property and you sign a lease agreement with that person, it's now become earned income. So now it's looked at as making money now. So now you're getting a certain amount. So let's say you can rent this out easy $1,400 a month. And they see that you're making $1,400 a month, they're gonna deduct for whatever you. Well, they're not even gonna do that. I was saying they're gonna deduct from your mortgage, but your income that you make from your job is what you're paying your mortgage. So they're not even gonna look at it. They're gonna look at it's $1,400 extra that you're making. Now that is gonna be used to qualify for another home. You repeat the cycle. 3 years, 4 years, you got 3 or 4 rental property. Unless you sell, you buy one, you sell it, use that capital gain to buy another one.
So you can do multiple FHA loans at one time, or
You
That's a
gotta.
thin line. No, cause
Yeah, I'm like-
we're not gonna put down no
There's timeline.
we go.
There's
Don't listen right there. We gonna.
there's timeline
There's a
restrictions
timeline.
Okay.
But it's
when
not,
you can take certain deductions and things like
And
that.
you can't
when
get a
you
penalty.
qualify.
So the clear answer is you can do it sometimes. Specific situations, just to clear
right,
it up.
and you gotta qualify for
Talk
it.
to a
But
That's the real answer. Talk to a loan guy.
Disclaimer: if you decide to do it, don't call us. That's your business.
the best route to go would be conventional.
Conventional,
And
okay.
for the people out there that 1099 workers are contractor, self-employed, they also got something called bank statement home loan. Right? Because the biggest problem that 1099 worker or self-employed is
Proving your income.
proving your income. And as business owners, we write out, like for instance, when you talk about taxes, a lot of people buy these $250,000 cars and all that. They do that for tax reasons, because as long as the car or your truck weighs a certain amount, you can always use it as a business expense. So, and it keeps its value so it doesn't depreciate. So if your cost $250,000 and you making $1.5 million a year in your business, you got $250 that you can write off every year as long as you operate as a business. Now, back to the flip side of it. What else I was gonna say? What else was it?
You were talking about how you could use your
okay, the bank statement. Yeah. Okay. So with the bank statement alone, since it'd be hard to prove your income with a bank statement alone, what they'll do is they'll take your bank statement, whether it's a business statement or your personal statement, wherever you deposit your checks or your wires come in from your job, they can go back. They can do a 1 month bank statement, and pretty much they'll just look at that 1 month and qualify you on it, but you will have to have at least 6 months of reserve in your account, 6 months a year reserve in your account to use that 1 month. They can go back to 12 to 24 months, and they'll pretty much base your salary on that deposit, on the deposit you make each month, and they'll qualify you, but that's going to be the 10 to 20% down payment.
You dropping game right now.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Is it, I mean, clearly once you sign paperwork, it's too late as far as when you close the house. Is there a time before signing the paperwork that it's too late to not take the house at a point? Or
When you sit down at an attorney's table, as long as you haven't signed anything, you can get up and walk. Or if you
has that ever happened to you?
no, most of
That's the time you got.
no, it's a filtering system now. So
Yeah, I mean, you lose your earnest money.
it's a lot of risk.
And I see a lot of people don't understand what earnest money is. Kind of explain what earnest money is.
All right, so All right, so earnest money.
Stop playing with me now.
Sorry. So earnest money is pretty much a deposit that you put. Either the buyer's agent can hold it, the seller's agent can hold it, or the closing attorney can hold it. But it's monetary value that you put against the house to show that you're serious about purchasing the house. And it can, and it's pretty much based on whatever the buyer and the seller agree to. So let's say in the offer you say, well, we'll do a $10 earnest money. If the seller agreed to it, boom, you can do it. Now the common practice is $1,000 earnest money. Because when you submit $1,000 earnest money or $2,500 earnest money, and if you're in Atlanta, it's $3,000 to $5,000. But when you submit that, it goes towards your closing costs. So the back end, what you have to bring to the table, they will deduct it from there. And if you don't have to bring any money to the table, you'll get it back at the closing table.
It's like a down payment for
It's a
your down
deposit.
payment.
Yeah, it's a deposit.
Basically, it's hey, I'm not wasting your time.
I'm not wasting your time, right? Because without it, you can just walk away. But once you submit that,
I'm just saying, that's probably why it's called that.
Yeah.
not too many people gonna walk away once they submit it, especially when you start getting into the $2,500, $3,000,
Yeah.
And then earnest money on top once you start paying for appraisals
Right.
and stuff. Make it real hard.
It also can be used as leverage when you negotiate or when you make an offer. Because if you come in and say, well, I'll give you $10,000 earnest money, that's a possibility that seller can get that money and still sell the house to someone else.
Yeah.
So there's negotiation reason behind it too.
That makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, how do you calculate your net worth? People say that they don't know how to calculate.
Do you want to know the answer?
Yeah, just quick.
I'm just assets minus liabilities.
Yeah.
Asset minus liabilities.
Whatever you know, if your car's $30,000 and you owe 10 on it, then your net worth is $20,000.
Right.
And another quick one: gross pay or net pay, which is most important when applying for things?
They look at net. I mean, they look at your gross.
Yeah, it depends on who's asking.
But yeah, it depends on now if you go to get a home loan, they look at your gross, your gross income.
Because gross is pre-tax, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tax.
So if you told me your friend you want to sound cool, tell them your gross.
That goes both ways actually, because on the business side they look at your net.
They look at
So like it depends on what you're applying.
That's all that really matters. If you're being honest, like you don't care what your gross
Well,
is.
no, that's why it doesn't though. On the business side,
that's when you got that
that's
realistic.
what we're talking
that's
about.
when you got to be realistic because even though let's say you're making $3,500 a month, but you know after tax your net is around $1,100 a month, but you're gonna get pre-qualified for that $3,500, but you already know what your check's gonna be. That's when you got to make a decision like, okay, do I need to drop this purchase price down to be at a good point, or take home.
It's kind of funny though, because it's not about what you earn, it's about what you keep, right? So when it comes to planning, one really big deal about retirement planning is you need less income to provide the same lifestyle. Because think about right now, like I know you're up at Geico, y'all have got your United Healthcare or whatever the insurance is, right? You've got your 401k that you put money into. You've got whatever charitable contributions, United Way, and all that stuff. I know they used to do. So like think about this. Your gross as you're working every year. $100,000 a year after tax and everything like that. If you're married, if you're lucky, then maybe 60 or 70 you'll bring home, 65, 70,000 that you net, right? But see, like in retirement, you don't have the 401k contributions, you don't have the health care, you don't have all these things coming out of your check. So you don't have to actually have as much income in order to net the same amount. In the state of Georgia, actually, once you're age 65, you're allowed up to $65,000 a year of state income tax deduction. Meaning you can collect $65,000 a year and not pay any Georgia state taxes, right? Income taxes.
Unless you public service, like if you public health, public safety, you can go to 50, 55.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Oh, that's from the fire. That's probably from
fire
fire.
police.
That's pretty cool. So, all right, that's awesome to know. So, if you're public service member, then that qualifies at 55, which makes sense because all of them you usually get out at 50, 55.
Well, no, that's your life expectancy.
Yeah, that's unfortunately. That's unfortunate. Sorry, but just saying that number, even that question, is so individual because it really kind of depends on what you're doing, right?
Right.
Most people. I'll tell you this: the most important thing is that people just understand what the difference is, because most people can't tell me what the difference is. So if as long as you know what you're looking at, look at your pay stub sometimes. That's what I like to tell people as like just kind of an exercise. When's the last time you looked at your pay stub? Go through every line item, and I want you to understand what it is that's coming out, and then that will change the way you look at your money.
Right.
Just look at your pay stub.
Perfect. We are back with the Talk to Be Nice podcast, and did you want to go ahead and ask your question to him?
I do want to ask my question. Okay, so how different would it be if somebody wanted to purchase a house outside of the state?
So what happened is if you got a realtor that you're working with local, they have to be licensed out of state to actually assist you. If not, most times we got a referral system, and we'll just refer you out to someone out in that state because you got to be licensed unless you got a reciprocity. And I think Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida got it. But I still have to be licensed over there to even operate inside of it. It's just like an attorney. They can't go to Tennessee say, "Well, I'm representing my client," and then I'm licensed.
Just like us.
Even when that happens, don't you still get like a finder's fee maybe from someone?
You get a referral fee. Yeah, you get a referral fee, but yeah, you definitely can find some other state.
So basically, if you still want to find a house anywhere, call him first.
Oh yeah.
Let him get something off the top at the very least.
Globally.
If he can't do it, he'll find somebody for you. So let's jump into something that I'm saying is becoming more common: investing. This is why we have her here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about investing. So if people are like me, how do they get started?
That's the very first question that everybody asks is, honestly, you need to have funds. You can either have your phone or a laptop. That's pretty much just all you need. But you also need knowledge too to understand what's going on in the market. How do you know when to buy and when to sell and all that good stuff? But first thing first, I do want to ask y'all a question. When is the first time you ever heard of trading? Like, in general, when was the first time you ever heard it?
Yeah, that's more like, honestly, like I heard it, but it became more common to me, like kind of like last year or the year before, I started seeing people, maybe just because we're coming of age, maybe people our age started taking it more serious.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't, like I know it was around, but it really didn't affect like me.
Right.
Like that. So.
And see, that's kind of where I wanted to get into, because when I did look up the term that we're talking about today, the financial literacy, the definition stated that it's the foundation of your relationship to money. And it's like the word foundation is basically where it all starts. It's from what you know about money, is about what your parents know about money, it's about your ancestors and what they know about money. But you have to look at money as an ecosystem by itself, to whereas the world has its own ecosystem, but then money has its own ecosystem as well. And it's nothing to do with color, but it's always about class system. It's about high class people, middle class people, low class people, or the homeless, because high class people have certain knowledge and they have access to certain things that middle class people don't, And middle class people have knowledge and access to certain things that low class people don't. But that's where you want to know that you want to break that cycle and you want to do something better. You want to do something different with your life. Like, for example, like if you have a farmer and like you be like, oh, I have a son now my son's going to follow my footsteps. What if that son doesn't want to? What if he wants to do something else? You know what I mean? And then like when COVID hit, COVID opened the doors to so many online options for you to make money. Only thing you really do nowadays is go to Google. This is what I did. I literally quit my job.
Wow.
I was bartending at Bonefish Grill and I literally quit my job because I was there one day and I was like, why am I here? What is my purpose? I was like, because I felt stuck in that building and working so much that I knew there was something else out there for me and that I needed to find it, but I just didn't know when or how or where to start. So what I pretty much did is I saved up enough money for myself and for my apartment and for me to pay rent and bills and all that good stuff. I quit my job. I literally laid on my bed, typed on Google, how do you make money online? And they was like, you can Uber, you can dog walk, you can babysit. They was like, you can resell. Yeah, I did that too. They was like, you can resell. And then it was like, you can do trading. Now, the first time I learned about trading was on Instagram because I'm like, no offense, I'm like, why is all these white people in these nice cars and flashing all this money? I was like, where are they getting this from? But like they made it look so easy. They made it look so simple because they have the knowledge. They have that wisdom. And I didn't have that. So I had to literally go through a path to break from being in low class because I was poor, living in a trailer, walking to the gas station for groceries, like waiting for it to rain. So because we didn't have water at point in time, waiting for it to rain in the pool so we can have water, like stuff like that. So I knew I wanted to get out, like, and so I knew I just didn't know how, I didn't know when. I just knew I had to work the 9 to 5, just like my mom taught me, just like her mom taught her, because they didn't have the knowledge of what's really out there. And so once you pertain that knowledge, you have to think about it. It's like, what will you do if you become successful? Like, and you have to ask that to yourself because we're in a situation now where there's no jobs. And that's because everybody's found out how to make money on their own and online. So they don't want to work for the system anymore. So it's kind of like, it's creating something else. It's creating something different. It's creating a whole new generation. And so now the United States or America has to evolve around us now because we're getting smarter in the game. We know how to make more money now without working for a white man. And we know how to make money without doing a 9 to 5. So once you start to understand that and you want that mindset first, that you want to do something new, then I would jump into trading or looking into other options as far as making money. Because like you said, being an entrepreneur, it takes time.
Well, the education is actually the most important part.
The most important part, yes.
You know, I mean, it's obvious that, like within the black community, actually, financial planning, there's an entire organization built around like financial planning in African American culture, because a lot of the information, a lot of the strategies, a lot of the resources were not made available or have not been made available at the same speed for white individuals. So it actually is a color thing when it comes to financial planning. It's a really, really important topic.
Yeah,
so like financial literacy, most of the schools that I did a lot of that work in, like I was in Booker T, I was in Banneker, I was in Atlanta. So yeah, I mean, there's a really great group. What?
I said, okay.
There's a really good group called Next Generation Men, Next Generation Women out of Banneker actually, that supported from the beginning. They're really incredible. And we used to like work with underprivileged youth and do mock interviews and things like that. And that was where basically what we would do is like do financial literacy education classes for the kids. And it was kind of like a whole workshop, like sometimes multi-day type thing. And I can tell you that a lot of it does have to do with the classism, of course, but the biggest way to change that will be educating yourself, educating your family, the people around you, because the game and I guess you could say like color, not color. I think it has more to do with just people who have money.
Mm-hmm.
They are protected in their bubble.
Pretty much.
And they want to stay in their
in that bubble, exactly.
And they want to keep their bubble because the less of that bubble that they own, the less power they have.
Right.
And so for people that are not in that bubble, myself included, right? If you educate yourself or you get education from others and you turn them into positive energy, that's, in my opinion, it's the only way out of it realistically.
Right.
You know, I think it's the only sustainable way for people to be able to build wealth and build a legacy, right? Is because the industry is not made for you or for me or for just
Right.
you know, just the average person. You know, I'm specifically not made for you because you're a black female.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like finding allies in that space who share the education. That is probably the most important piece. Reaching and
Yeah.
teaching.
And you can't be
In
scared.
my opinion.
And you can't be scared. Like,
Yeah.
once my mentor once told me, once you're uncomfortable, you're doing something right.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And the scare bags, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. This is just like, you know, I know I'm the outlier here, right? But I also like,
Right.
it's, you know, I grew up poor, and when we made it in Atlanta, I spent a lot of time trying to like spread that information.
Right.
I taught at FBLA conference. I taught teachers how to teach budgeting. Like it's just super important, and so very passionate about it. And you just hit the nail on the head on like the whole thing for everybody who's watching, whoever sees this. You know, it could be 10 people, it could be 100,000. The absolute most important part is the education.
Yes.
Is anything from here, and don't be afraid of it. That
Literally.
is such a
Don't be
important
afraid
thing.
of change,
You know,
right?
it's because it's meant to be scary, but you know, think about all the good things that have happened in your life. Usually, it's because you took a lead,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Took that risk.
you know, sorry, that was just really passionate.
No,
That's a
it's
really
not.
awesome time.
I told y'all, I didn't even like fitting. Y'all think y'all.
No, I really love, because that's another reason why I created this trading school.
Yeah.
Because I've been through so much the past 2 years with just trading and losing a lot of money. COVID hit, and then
Of course.
it was a little bit overwhelming. But I was like, why is this out here? Like, why is this not more easily accessible for people to have?
Yeah.
Why do I have to join a group and pay a monthly membership?
I was about to ask you, that's the question I was about to ask. A lot of people, when they start talking about trading, like they see the people on Instagram with those great lives, and then they start
It's
trying
cute.
to join in. They're like, yeah, you can get it, but you gotta pay me.
Right.
And it's a pay scale, and the
And
way
then
you get paid,
it's-
you gotta get 3 or 4
also
more
right.
people.
It's
Like,
just
it's more
too-
triangle scheme than anything.
It's too much. It's too much. Just strictly teach me how to trade and make money. And then, like, when you are in a group and there's a whole bunch of people in there, that's when you start to get emotionally with it, because
Yeah.
why are they making $1,000 and I'm not? What's wrong with my profile and
So let
mine
me
is
ask you
taking on
this.
you, theirs
For
not?
for somebody who's kind of feeling like you, is there a way to kind of figure out what's an actual opportunity and what maybe just honestly a scam?
That's a great question. Honestly, to better what's the word I'm looking for?
Prepare.
Prepare, or what's the word? Make sure you edit this out.
Maybe that is
Fine.
What's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. Just to watch out for yourself, I would basically look for yourself. Like, I would go on YouTube, look
Right.
up what investing means, or Google, look at trading, like just somebody randomly trading. Just look for yourself first before you dig deep into somebody else and what
So
they
is
got.
it
going on.
worth joining a group then if you're gonna do the work yourself?
I wouldn't.
For the fast route, if you want the fast
If
route.
you want the
yeah,
fast route, you
yeah.
want the family, you want like.
Because the only thing I see, like, again, I'm not in it, so I don't know. I'm just speaking for people who have talked about it. Is it really a family environment? Like, I don't gotta pay my brother to tell me stuff if I need to know it. Like, so what does it become if nobody's but one person at the top's making money? Because I had a guy, like, he was into it deep, and he just quit. He's like, every time I try to ask for help, like, what I need to
Yeah,
train,
and that was
they
another
never
thing
gave
I
me
had a
anything.
problem with. It was when I joined, and with the group that I joined with, they were helpful, but it was unorganized. I'ma just say
I hear that a lot too.
it was just chaotic, because they were just pulling people in. Add this person, add this person, add this person.
I think that's
so
what
it wasn't like
when it's like, hey, if you bring 3 people, that's how you get paid. It's
Yeah.
gonna be chaotic, because I don't really care if you learn how to
I
get
can
3 people
say
in.
with my partner, and no, I'm not as deep in day trading as you are. When we closed, one thing he said, like I said, he making 6 figures from day trading.
right.
Only thing he told me is, he said, look, when you ready, let me know. He said, set up this demo account, use this brokerage, and just use the demo money so you could actually just get a feel for it. He's like, when you have $1,000 to the side and you want to learn, it's like, because you're going to lose money. But the only way you're going to really catch it is if you're losing your own money and not demo money.
Right.
So it's like, get $1,000 when you got your $1,000 and you're ready to actually start trading, hit me up and I'll teach you. And it wasn't contingent on no payment or anything like that. Now with other people, because like I say, people know that he trades, so he'll charge them. But it's not that. He's like, I teach people it's $250, but I teach you how to do it because you gotta make money. Now, if you attain knowledge on something, you work hard to attain it yourself. Like when it comes down to real estate, all right. If I want to open up a real estate school, I'm not gonna give it to everybody free.
Yeah.
Because at some time you gotta put a value on your knowledge, and that's where we lack in the black community. We are very reluctant about paying other people for the knowledge that you don't have. All right, so putting money on, charging someone is one thing. Now, this whole you bring in 3 people, a pyramid scheme, that's what you talking about.
Yeah.
See,
That's a different ballgame.
I feel like if somebody knows something you don't know, I think there's no reason not to pay them for that information. The issue I'm hearing from the groups is you're not paying for information.
No,
you're paying to be in the circle, but you don't learn anything other than get 3 more people.
Yeah.
So now they're the ones who need to go chase those people, not you.
Just being
Pass the
finessed.
buck basically to somebody else.
I've got an answer for you, and I actually want to real quick just how long have you been trading?
2 years.
Yeah, see, it's not something that happens overnight.
It's not.
People,
It doesn't.
that's the thing. You said something really important. You said the fast route. There is no fast route that doesn't involve luck. The only fast route is a lottery ticket, and when it comes to statistical probability, the chances of you getting a lottery ticket are low. So those groups, I'm a licensed investment advisor, right? So I do it professionally, and I will tell you that as a professional, my honest advice and opinion is be realistic about what you're using that group for. Like if you want to trade and you want to do the stocks, you want to do those things. If you're in that group because they've mentioned some tickers that have done well and you've benefited from that, that's great. But I would never go into any of those groups expecting them to be savants or that are going to just really
And I think
tell
that's
these
the
incredible
issue.
things. Well, the reason why is look, you mentioned a really important thing that I would actually say in the black community, I say just in our generation in general, across the board, I think that we value the wrong things. I think that I see social media, I look at Instagram and I see this dude has a big house, he does this, and then, he's selling stock tips. Well, I probably need to get with him because he's got money. But a lot of times that's all fake. Seriously. And so with those groups, that's my honest assessment is go into that group, if you're going to do that, go into that group with the understanding that you're there to get the information. If you're not getting the information, there's nothing special about that person as opposed to just any of the other millions of people out there that do that, other than the fact that they probably just had really good timing or got lucky on things. Because there's nobody out there that can tell you the big hitters, which is why, and she agrees with me, and the reason why is because in day trading, it's not about the big hitters. It's about the small, those wins.
It's about the small wins.
It's about the big ones are great. I'm just saying that the day trading is about a sustainable, right, type of goal. Right. And if you're aiming for the lottery tickets, you know. I mean, look, it's.
When I trade so low. So there's pennies on the dollar. So and I probably have 3 or 4 orders in, and if I'm in the blue, if I'm making 50 cents, close that out for the day.
And that's what you do. You just keep doing it though, because it keeps adding up.
Yeah, you never leave a balance overnight. Isn't that the rule? Right.
That's why I messed up at.
You're not supposed to leave it over weekends either.
Over weekend, yeah.
Why not over weekends?
Well,
with the Forex market, it closes at Friday at 5, but with crypto, you can do that 24/7. And then with binary options, like option trading, like US 30 or SPX 500 or NAS 100, those you can trade Monday through Friday as well, like as far as with Forex.
Crypto's hot.
Oh yeah, cryptos.
Is that the next question? What's the next question? Is it crypto?
I told you, I don't know much about this.
Crypto is hot. Listen, I'm gonna be real.
Depends.
You know more about crypto than I do.
It really depends because, and then
Much more. I'm sure.
this is something else I do want to say, especially to whoever this reach out to, as far as like with everybody who's just started trading in the community. Do not listen to one person just because they tell you to do it. You're not going to jump. If somebody tells you to jump, you're not going to do it. So if Elon Musk tells you to buy Doge, do not do it because he's not talking to us.
Did you say Doge?
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Is it Doge or Doge? I don't know. You learn something every day. I like that better. I like Doge better.
The dog.
The dog. Yeah. The dog.
Oh, dog.
So he knows what it is.
I'm gonna tell you a crazy fact.
I thought it was dog porn. Was I the only one?
I can't remember when, but back before he started popping up, my brother put me on GameBuy.com, and I actually ended up buying 2,500 of them.
Oh,
Right?
that's awesome.
So when it took off this summer, he got out of it. He was like, "Man, you need to sell." I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna keep it in there."
Yeah.
And it hit for 50 cents. Right? So that $20 that I put in there at that time, because I bought it before it even hit a penny.
Good.
You know, it came up 1,500 off of it. So
Did you sell it then or you kept it?
no, I did what I just said I did. I let it ride and then dropped back
And it
down.
dropped back down.
Now,
We should have that
Just
story.
that's where you gotta be careful of.
But
That'll make you
don't
mad.
sell. You never sell low unless it's a bankrupt.
right.
You know that 2008 people lost money because they sold. If they had held on,
Man, they
it'd have
be
been up
They would've
double.
been down.
Do you know? Have you ever heard of the Dow Jones? Have you ever heard of the Dow Jones Industrial?
Yeah.
Just a benchmark
Yeah.
average. What was it worth right now? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's worth 35,000 roughly.
Mm.
Do you know what it was worth at the bottom of 2008?
What was it?
6,000, 6,500. Do you see the difference there?
Mm.
Don't sell just because you have a bad day. Well, I can't say don't sell. This is not an investment recommendation, but it's usually a bad decision to sell when you're down.
Right.
Yeah.
Even with lithium. Back in 2012, Bitcoin had just hit. Right. I didn't go for that, but somebody put me on about Ethereum, and I only did like it only was $5. I did a low number, but from now to what it is now, I'm at like $100 and some from that little percentage that I bought from. I fought myself really. I was like, man, if I would have just went ahead and bought it, then I would have been good. But it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
So now I see back, I look and say, like, damn, I should have waited.
Crypto's weird. Crypto,
Right.
crypto's the way of the future, but nobody knows which one it's gonna be.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
So like I said with this, I don't have no question, I'll be honest. So what have we not asked that people need to know?
Yeah, that's right.
Because this floor is yours.
What's the number one question you usually get? Is there a couple of things?
Yeah, that's all. About trading, that's literally the only question I got about trading. Is it a scam?
Is trading gambling? No, it's not gambling if you're making money. It's only a gamble. For example, let's say you are gambling at a casino. A gamble is basically when you don't know when to get out. You don't know when to get in or you don't know when to get out. And you're emotional with it and you're already losing and then you're just like, oh, I'm just going to hit big. So I'm just going to put money in. That's gambling. But when you're trading in the market and you have the knowledge and you know what you're doing, it's not a gamble, it's a profit. It's a success.
So
Well,
basically,
most people don't think about the fact that you own, what is trading? Like when you buy a stock, what are you doing?
Yeah, I am buying.
Buying a piece of the company, right?
Buying a piece
So
of
you own an asset. You're
Yeah.
an owner.
Yeah.
What you get out of it depends on how much you put in it and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But,
like this.
gambling, you're just relying on luck.
Mhm.
Right?
And you can't do that.
Exactly.
Especially not with the market, especially if you are emotional and attached to your money. It's something like you don't need to do, basically. So it's like you have to build yourself mentally and emotionally and financially before you even begin trading, pretty much. That's just how I see it. But see, that's why I created my trading program, because I talk about all of this. I talk about how you need a vision board because you need to see it to believe it, like, and that's just life in general. And I teach you, you know, risk management. I teach you when to sell, when to buy. I teach you how to look at Forex. I teach you how to look at the candlesticks.
What's Forex?
Forex is just strictly for 2 different currency pairs.
Right.
So like, let's say if you have like
US dollar
versus Japanese yen, those 2 correlations is like Forex and
It's the
Forex.
exchange of currency.
Pretty much. That's all it is. But like where you have crypto is strictly, you know, anything Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, EOS. What else was there out there? There's a few stuff out there. And then you have options, day trading. That's particularly what I do, because it's just, honestly, it's just more money in there for me.
Yeah.
But I do that with, you know, SPX 500, NAS 100, US 30, gold.
You
I do all of
use
those.
options, or just the like you just do day trading
Just-
individual securities?
Yeah, but they're the option ones, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now you
There's
brought
more money
your
in
class, which is perfect, but you have to bring up, where can we sign up for this class?
Actually, because, you know, I am giving this to you all for free. One time only. You actually sign up with the link and it'll let me know, and then you can just start on your own program. And I actually created the program for people who don't know what trading is. I created it for people who are in college or not in college, and you're just struggling with money, or just people who want to change. Like,
Is there a website people can
Yeah, I
go
was
to?
saying,
I sent you the
now for
link.
people,
What's it
for
called?
people
for
who
us.
don't have a link, who just watch it.
Hey, yeah, so contact me. I ain't got a link yet.
Yeah.
But
They watch the video like, I ain't got no link.
I ain't got no link.
I'll talk to you about a website after. They're pretty.
Yeah, please, thanks. I'm gonna need some help. But like, if anybody does want any information, you can definitely contact me on my social media, Queen Queen Teke, and I could definitely send any additional information, or I can give you a sneak peek of the link, so that way you can start your own journey.
I got 3 people here I need to contact. You want a house,
Right.
your budget right, financial, right. Trade. It's all right here. It's really all right here.
business consultant.
Oh, that's
Everything is right here.
awesome.
So let's move on to these last few questions. These, like I said, I just got a bunch of random questions from people who wanted to pick y'all brains on this. So, big one I kept getting, credit cards. How should you select a credit card? Okay.
Credit card, yeah, you get a lot of solicitation in the mail, especially if your credit is in a certain range. If the credit card said that you have to pay $150 just to get the credit card, you probably want to go
Yeah.
get a credit card.
Okay.
Yeah, because most credit cards, you know, if they see credit worthiness, you sign up, you get approved, they send it to you, you use it. Once you use it, that's seen on the cycle. So if you do get a credit card and you're trying to boost your credit, a lot of people don't know, if you go up to 35% of whatever your credit limit is, and you pay it down to like 5 to 10%, it does something with the credit bureau to make your credit actually boost up.
I was making a mistake for the longest that every month I was paying the entire balance off.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I did it literally for years thinking, oh yeah, they gonna show I paid it out. They're like, no, that literally, they don't.
It's like you're not
They reported nothing.
It's like you're
Yeah, I
not-
didn't even realize that for the
watching
longest.
each other.
They're like, nah, we
So
don't
you
balance.
want to make sure that you're keeping a balance on that, but you also want the system sheet to see that you're using it, but you want to make sure that they see that you also paying, also show good payment history too.
Credit cards. Some credit cards have like points and cash back, and they offer different things.
Right.
We have a lot of business clients who fly. Well, prior to COVID, flew a lot for business stuff, and you know they get free flights and things like that.
I got
Some
an American
credit
Express,
cards.
they're real good at that too.
Some, yeah,
Yeah,
Amex,
yeah.
and see, like you mentioned, like Amex has a membership. They're known for having like a high membership fee, but there's a lot of, if you use the benefit, sometimes it makes sense. You know,
Do I pay? I don't know if I pay membership fee.
You
I
probably
probably
pay
did.
a
I
fee.
probably did.
Yeah.
I don't.
But some cards you gotta pay before you.
I really don't remember.
credit cards are a good thing if you are not irresponsible with them.
Right.
But I say that and also add, it's very easy to be irresponsible.
Very right.
I'm irresponsible with credit card. You know, I mean,
I
it's
kind of use my credit cards like as my debit card, cause like I said, I never buy nothing with my credit card I don't have the money for.
Yeah.
So like, it low key kind of like people be seeing what I be doing. I literally spend the same money twice because I spend the credit card and then I pay it off, but I don't pay interest because I pay it off within
but
the time.
do you get cash back on your card?
Yeah, that's why I used to when I first, I'm be honest, when I first didn't have great credit, I took whatever credit card they gave me.
Of course.
As credit starts to rise, then you get a little bit more picky. Like, nah.
I got one of the Tires Plus. I got McDonald's credit card.
I ain't gonna lie. When I got my American Express, I got bougie. Like, I ain't want nothing else. But yeah, I started getting the cash backs and things like that. But I like that. So, which companies would you all prefer? I mean, we brought up Amex. What's some other ones? I personally like Discover too. Capital One. I love Capital One.
Discover is good.
Tires Plus, that was good.
Their credit card.
It's one.
By the way,
It's one.
It's 0% for like a year.
One that I would say not to get. It's not Capital One, but if you come in the mail, they send you a bunch of things in the mail, and they look just like Capital One. They'll get you if you're not paying attention.
Is it the?
Everybody probably got something.
I throw it in the mail every time.
Yeah,
it's like Indigo or something.
No,
like
it's not Indigo, but it's basically just like Indigo.
Just like Indigo.
I forgot what it's called. Is it Credit One? Something like that.
Credit One.
Yeah, they got the whole side.
Main Street. I get stuff from Main Street all the time. Chase, I do all my banking with Chase. They have pretty good.
But another good thing is, like with credit cards, let's say you got 3 credit cards, one 200, one 300, one 700. Man, you hook up if you screen, hook up your Netflix tool, life insurance. You know, a lot of people don't, they pay their life insurance out of pocket. You hook up to your credit card and have a charge, phone bill, mortgage. Depending on your credit limit, you use that credit because everything on today's society is based off credit. So whenever you get your minimum, you know, after your statement, you go ahead and pay that monthly expense. So you're never really touching the money in your
you just want to
account.
keep it, what is it, 30%?
Yeah, 35%. And to calculate that, you just take the overall. So if you got 500 credit limit, you go 500 minus 35%. The number that pop up is the number that you're gonna go.
You want to keep
The only thing I actually spend directly from my account is my mortgage and my car. Anything other than that, you probably pay with credit card.
Right. That's a good concept.
As long as you're responsible with it.
Now let me ask y'all this, because I hear a lot of people either on one side of the fence or the other. Is there too many credit cards?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the number for y'all?
Whatever number you can't handle personally.
At least,
Seriously.
I'm speaking for myself because I stand on. I guess that's how you feel.
I mean,
you can handle it. Because I probably have.
Yeah.
Because I probably have 7 credit cards. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, if it's like store cards or something, that's different.
now I don't like store cards. I'm gonna be honest because I don't like store cards because most store cards they're usually under Visa. So if you're gonna get a Visa or a MasterCard anyway, why don't you just get a general one that you can take anywhere?
Well,
That's me personally. Some people like them. I kind of say away
I
from
will
them.
say when I was younger and I was starting to build my credit, the first thing I did do was apply to Dillard's or Victoria's Secret, just places I know that I'm going to pay and shop and pay
I'm not
that.
gonna lie.
But
I had a Victoria's Secret card, not because I was trying to Victoria's Secret.
You was scheming.
No. That's when I had just fixed my credit, but I couldn't really get no credit card. So I was just applying anywhere to see if I could get one. And I low key just had to get a Victoria's. I never used it. They eventually closed it because I never used it. But they gave me $250 and that really started. Okay, I can get credit cards.
The real answer to the most important factor of any credit cards is the interest rate.
That's it.
That's all that matters.
I'm probably guilty
your
of it.
annual, annual fee, interest rate.
I'm probably guilty of it. I pay more attention to the annual fee, not really the interest rate, because again, I pay all mine off. Right. So I've had credit cards now for 10 years. I've never paid interest. So I might not pay as much attention as I should because I learned now to let it go a month, but they don't charge you interest until I think the month after that.
Yeah.
So because that's why I was paying mine off that first month because I didn't want to avoid interest, and I didn't realize you got a month to pay it after that. Because I remember when I was buying my house, I was like, how long is it gonna take? I need to pay this credit card. I'm not gonna pay no interest.
The interest, when it comes to debt, the interest rate is everything. If it's a low interest rate, it doesn't make sense to pay off quickly. If it's a high interest rate, it does. That's a big mistake we see in real estate is when people want to pay their houses off, right? You don't want to be debt. I want to be debt free. I want to be debt free. Well, if you got a 2% mortgage rate, right, or interest rate on your mortgage, and you're paying an extra $1,000 a month, you could be taking that $1,000 a month, putting it into the market, getting more than 2%, and building the asset at the same time.
Right.
So your return, you would net more. We see people all the time. They'll retire and then they'll cash out, the IRA, so they pay taxes, and they had $200,000 after taxes and everything. They got $125,000, and they use that to pay off their mortgage. okay, well, they have a home, but now they don't have a bucket of $200,000. Whereas if your interest rate was only 2 or 3%, all I have to do is in the market get 2 or 3% to make what I'm you're losing on that interest. And so, like, just financial planning, when it comes to debt, the interest rate is everything.
That's another reason why to buy right now, because these are historically
low
interest rate. Like when I bought my house, the
giveaway,
going rate for a decent credit, I financed it at 5.2. Right.
That's high,
I just recently refinanced and dropped 3 points. So you know, so it's a huge difference. It's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
From like my captain. My old captain, when he financed his out with good credit, he had a 12% interest rate.
Yep.
You know, so when he heard 5%, he was like, "Oh man, you're doing good." But then you look at today's market, where people are closing with 1.7 or 2.3. You know.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Less than 40 years ago, like you said, interest rates were in the teens. Now they're so low, but I mean, from a macroeconomic standpoint, they won't stay there. They're going to start rising pretty soon.
Now, let me ask you this as far as debt goes, because a lot of people think, and I mean, this is, I guess, more mindset. Is it smarter to go after the small debts first and then take on the big one, or start at the big one and then take on the small one?
Snowball effect. Because the small debt, how I look at it is if it's going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
So you want to go with the one that's you. Depending on your goal. But you're going to go with the one that's really causing the most damage to your debt income ratio or just your interest rate. Interest rate. So, like for instance, my car, you know, am I worrying about paying my car first, or am I worrying about paying if I had a loan of $300? You know, I mean, yeah, that's small, but if you paying $18 a month to $20 a month, you know, you pay that with no problem. Not think about it. But I can turn around and take $500 extra and put it on that car note to bring it down to beat that interest rate. Because that car, even though your car probably $35,000, when you get finished financing, you leaking at close to $50,000.
Do you know what the snowball effect is?
Explain.
So basically, what he's talking about is, let's say I have a car that I pay $500 a month on, and I have a house that I pay $1,000 a month on. Once pay that car off, let's say that I have $500 $1,000, but I'm gonna pay an extra $500 on the car over here, right? So now I'm paying $1,000 on each. I pay the car off. The snowball effect is where you just take that $1,000 that you're spending and you put it right on the mortgage, and it's a snowball. You know,
it's good. It's still
See, I've been doing that too, and I didn't even know I was doing that.
Usually, what we model out is you take the highest interest rate. You take all your cards, all your debts. You do what's called an amortization schedule, which is when you find out what the payoff schedule is, and you put them in order for the highest interest rate first, and you just start paying that off, and you pay extra. But don't pay extra on anything else. That's the biggest mistake people make, especially when you're swimming in debt. And like, if you're swimming in debt, you know what I'm talking about.
If you're swimming in debt, you need to call him.
If you're swimming in debt, Operation Hope is, I'm telling you, they're a really good group. But when you're swimming in debt, it can be really hard because you're paying an extra $20 here, an extra $30, an extra $100 here. You're doing a lot of extra, but you're spreading it out all over the place. Instead of taking an extra $300 and putting it towards this one area first. So you go for the one, like he said, that's most detrimental to your whatever the situation is. And usually it's that interest rate, because that's what's costing you the most. You pay that off, and then you snowball, and that's how you get out of it.
That makes perfect sense. So y'all both kind of hit on the last few questions we had, which is one about the car. Let's go knock this question out. Is it smarter to buy a new car or a used car financially?
Ooh, this market is right now, used cars are selling for what new cars are because of the chip shortages. That's actually a really tough question.
From speaking with my car guys,
Brad within them.
Brad, and shout out Shaq. Basically, what they usually say when it's like with cars, if it all depends on what you plan to do with that car. If you plan to keep it, then most of the time there's more incentives for new cars. So if you're not going to sell the car anytime soon, then it doesn't really affect you. But if you like to switch cars a lot, it might be smarter to go with a used car, because again, we all know when you leave with a new car, depreciation as soon as you pull off. Used car, somebody else already took that hit. So yours is going to depreciate, but not as much because you're changing a new car to a used car. But if you bought a used car, still a used car.
Well, you bring up like one of the biggest areas that we see debt-wise, where people can be in some trouble is negative equity on a vehicle. Homes are not that hard because they're such a much larger asset, and it's much easier to usually get value out of them. But for cars, if you're a person that switches them up frequently, make sure that you pay enough into it to where it's worth it. Because I've come across people who have a 2015 Jeep Cherokee with a $40,000 loan on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's because they were in something that they probably overpaid for.
Yeah,
then jumped over.
Shout out Brad, because Brad saved me when I first started getting good credit. I wanted to do everything. So I went and bought a 2017 Toyota Corolla. Had an unnecessarily high interest rate. So I came to Brad for my second car. Same way I send people to you, I send all my car people to Brad. Yeah. And he said, yo, I don't send cars anymore, stop sending them.
That's right, he doesn't say that to me. He's my only car guy. He doesn't say that to me. I'm like, hey, who can I call? He's like, oh.
That's how I met Shaq. He's like, hey, stop sending them to me, he goes Shaq, and then I send them all to Shaq. But shout out Brad and Shaq. But Brad saved me because I had an unnecessarily high interest rate. And he was like, your credit too good for this interest rate you got. So he ended up, I switched out cars, and that's when I got my blue, I forgot what it was. It was a blue car anyway. He got me a 0% interest rate. Yeah. He was like, just keep this car for a year, pay on it. It's 0% interest rate. So you keep it for a year, you'll knock the negative equity out, you can switch it out. So I kept it for a year, and then I swapped out to the car I got now. And I was good. I didn't have no negative. So that's
a big one. That's a big one. Because cars are easy for you to get excited about, I'm a car man. I love my car.
Yeah,
so I swear by Brad. I don't care if he sells cars or not. He needs car. Man, all right. So the last two questions, both about college. I know you all mentioned college too. College loans. I had a question from somebody. They said they got a mountain of debt, but they don't want to default, but can't afford to pay. What should they do?
Defer.
Do they charge interest when you defer still? Or do
right now they don't. You can defer it, or you can just do an income-driven plan.
Mm-hmm.
Only issue with that, to me though, if you don't make a lot of money, cause I know when I worked at Geico, it was like a supervisor said he was paying like $2 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's cool, but you'll never pay that off. Like,
That's because typically your income supposed to increase and the plan supposed to go up. But it keeps you from deferring and hitting your credit, because if nobody knows, if a student loan hit your credit, it's gonna do some damage. And it's gonna be hard to come out of it. You gotta actually have to call them, schedule a payment plan, do an appeal on that.
It's one of the only debts you can't discharge.
Yeah.
It's one of the only things you can't do.
Even if you go bankruptcy.
But just talk to them, really. That's what I would recommend.
My personal experience, when I left college, I had student loans. I wasn't paying them, I'll be honest. And I had like a bunch of missed payments on mine. And as soon as I called them, like when I started paying them and said, hey, can y'all take this off for me? Like my credit jumped immediately. Because it was like, okay, since you're paying now, we got you.
Well, you probably had to do it like 3 months before they let you do it.
Honestly, I was paying them and that was my thing, because I just decided I didn't really need them when I wanted to fix my credit. I just decided it was time. So I didn't even call them for I had made a year and a half on time payments by the time I called them. They're like, yo, my credit's not rising. Yeah, you got 2 years of missed payments with them. So they was like, yeah, we'll take care of you. It's fine.
See, with student loans, it kind of depends on if it's federal or private. I would say with all debt, by the way, one of the things I learned from Operation Hope was and it's really hard because you're people are embarrassed or they're scared, but calling the lender is one of the best things you can do. You know what I mean? Anytime you owe anybody money,
my life changes by calling the phone.
Because those companies aren't,
they don't want to lose the money.
And they don't want to. That's the big misconception about. I definitely think there's some work that could be done in the corporate area for how they treat people, but just saying that most companies out there are not out to really hurt people like they think they are. Most companies, those companies have employees that have to eat. If you don't pay your bills, how can they pay their employees? And so any debt, I would definitely say that's the best advice is call whoever it is you owe.
Now that y'all speaking on that, even with the home loans out there, I know with COVID, they did a lot of forbearance. They pushed it to the back. Yeah. Now after, it's probably this month. Well, yeah, last month. Yeah.
They extended it a little bit.
Those payments gonna come due, and at the time they come due, you can call your lender. That's the first step. Call your lender, but you can ask for hardship and that forbearance can actually be placed to the end of that loan, and it will bring you current. So for the ones that did forbearance for 3 months or whatever, how many months you did, talk to them, because if you don't, they're gonna accelerate that loan, and when they accelerate that loan, that whole loan is due. So if your loan amount is 145, when they accelerate it, all that 145 is due, unless you submit a hardship. And once you submit the hardship and they approve it, everything that's past due can actually be put to the end of the loan, and you just start picking up your payments. So that's a hack.
Let me ask y'all this: financially speaking, is it worth going to college and getting these student loans as much as it once used to be?
Is it
Because a
worth
lot of
it?
people,
Let me ask you this though. I'm glad you asked that, because there's a lot of people out there who believe, you know, and this is their mindset though. Their mindset is just, they don't want to owe. They don't want to owe the school loans and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, y'all are asking for the PPP loan. So what's the difference?
Right.
What's the difference when you're asking a school for a loan for knowledge to where you're asking for the PPP loan to what? To do what with it?
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, the school for
It's
knowledge you
still
gotta
a
work
loan.
for.
Yeah. I guess
That's
the
a
biggest
long-term investment.
That is a
downfall
long-term
have been for people is they go to school, they get out with this debt, and now the entry level, they're not getting paid for what they went to school for, or you got a little ways to go. You got to go to a private sector. Like the money's not available right then, and honestly,
I think we just need to practice
And it
patience all the way around.
And honestly, it needs to be said, but it's what you're going to school for. If you're going to school for, no offense to anybody, whoever, whatever major y'all got, but if you're going to school for, I don't know, a teacher, you need to make sure you're looking for a college or a university. You're not going to make as much money as you want being like an elementary or...
But that's the system. Our public
It's the
education system is a total failure when it comes to guiding children
Yeah.
on what
Yeah.
to do next.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
our generation, we have all been sold this dream that you go to college, you get a degree, you come out making 6 figures or whatever.
Yeah,
you think
that's
was
true.
it
good.
just haven't been.
And that just doesn't exist for
It's
us.
the-
I didn't go to college. I just got really, really blessed with the mentors and people that I was placed close to and listened to. And I got really lucky. And there's a lot of hard work there, but I got really lucky. Right place, right time. And what I would say for people who have that question is if you don't think college is for you, it wasn't for, I mean, it definitely wasn't
Yeah,
for me.
and you're right. College is
Then-
not for everybody.
Get active with like seeking knowledge and seeking experience
Right.
and trade, like you mentioned, because at the end of the day, the most valuable thing any of us have and what you actually get paid for is your time. It's the only
Very
thing that you
much
can't
so.
get back. It's the only thing that they're not making more of, right? Land, that moves all day long, but time, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
So when you get compensated for time.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you're in college, you know, I don't know what the going rate per semester is not in college, but if you have like a gig or something where you can make it and you just, you know, set up a payment plan with the college where you pay it, you need some money. Nah, if it's a crazy number, you know, a semester, I don't, like I said, I don't know how much you pay on a
I got a
semester.
friend, she said she paid like $500-$600 a month.
Well, but also like college, like what? College, like I'm gonna go live in New York for 4 years and live it up and go study, you know, how to tie my shoes to go. Like, what are you going to school for? I mean, seriously, because
Yeah, you really have to ask
really
those type of
important.
questions.
'Cause-
Like, what? And
I think that's a
I say
problem.
this because when I was in high school and I was making my resume, the teacher asked me, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a flight attendant. And she was like, she just shut me down. She was like, they don't make enough money. I said, they make more than
That's
you.
a lie.
And then she gave me detention, but I was being realistic.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
you
flight
really have to know the
I have
numbers.
supplies that are flight attendants. They have great lives.
That's what I'm
Travel,
saying.
all that stuff. You know?
That's what I'm saying. So it's really important that you look into what you want to do as far as like
Yeah.
the
Well,
money
and
aspect into it.
I just think, unfortunately, you know, again, like our what we've been sold or what we value, you know, like we see a college experience, like we see this thing,
Yeah.
and in reality, you know, I actually, one of my best friends, I grew up, he works for me now, spent, after college, we graduated from Northside, he stayed here, went to Middle Georgia State. You know, I think maybe spent like $3,000 to $5,000 a year, bankrolled all that while he was like he's working, doing all that same time. No student debt. Him and his girlfriend live in Atlanta. They do fine. Like, you know, but he made the sacrifice, and like that's just not the normally advertised thing. Normally, it's you gotta go to Southern or you know UGA or Georgia State, right? And so it's just, you know, that's an important thing too.
Yeah, because I'm saying, because I literally just graduated with my math degree, but it's like people are asking me, you want to be a teacher? I said there's so much more beyond and above being a teacher. I can work for now.
If you got a math degree, I would probably assume you're gonna be a teacher.
That's what I'm saying. So everybody assumes, but I was saying.
That's what's funny about it is my wife graduated with her math degree, but wanted to be a teacher, and it was a mistake because in order to teach math in Georgia, if you have a math degree, you have to go back to school and get your early childhood.
Yes, you do have to do that.
So,
I remember that.
and it's really weird because Georgia has a really high shortage on math teachers.
Probably
So
reason.
we have, well, that's the thing. So she literally, she taught high school. We taught, you know, she taught in Atlanta for 3 years, and then her temporary certificate was done, and she was like, I just don't want to do this permanently, so it's not worth it for me. And you know, so even when you go to school for it, you still ain't going to school for it. It's crazy.
Only reason I took a math degree was either a teacher or I had a friend who said he wanted to be an actuary. That's the only thing.
Oh no, that's a money making job. That guy's probably a genius.
No, because when I was looking on LinkedIn and I just typed in math, you'd be surprised what I saw. I saw NASA, I saw EA Sports. I was like,
she does accounting. That's what she does.
For accounting. See, I just got into a tax school, so I'm going to try to get into some field within that.
That's awesome. I mean,
so it really depends on what you want to do.
Case by case.
Right.
I think that's kind of like the theme, right?
Yeah.
It's like finance. It's kind of funny it wraps up this way because, and I mean, unless you got another question.
Oh no, I think we got to open the floor in case y'all say something.
I'll just say that like it's kind of funny that our talk kind of wraps up, other than the question and answer on that piece, because like I found that and have found that in my career, like everything money is individual.
Right.
You know, I can't express to you, like, you know, how frequently people come and question and say, oh, my buddy's doing this, or my buddy's doing this, hey, my sister told me about this, blah, blah, blah.
That's not your money.
It's not yours. And there's nobody that really can make the right decisions about your money the way that you can. And so my advice to people always is like, find people you trust that know what they're talking about, because that's also a really important thing. Like, I'm sorry, like Uncle Ricky can cook a hamburger, but Uncle Ricky ain't slapping it up on the stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the truth. And so my normal advice is, you know, like, it's also individual that I'm sure we dropped some information from people, but if you have some questions, talk to people in that space that you trust and understand you and can give you real tailored feedback, because you'll never get a real answer until you.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
No.
Like there's nothing wrong with asking.
And bet on yourself. You know, so many people, like you got some people that just want to work, like don't mind working.
Yeah.
But even if you working, you know, America was built on an enterprise, a free enterprise. So we built on entrepreneurship. You know, you can find, as long as you got a service that you're providing. Like for instance, when the pandemic hit, a lot of businesses went out of business simply because they wasn't built to withstand this type thing. Food didn't go nowhere, liquor didn't go nowhere, you know, real estate didn't go nowhere, finance didn't go nowhere, you know, so it's like, it's as long as, like, America was built on providing a service and retail, you know, so get a gig. And get something where you can back yourself up on, because as long as you provide a great customer service, and that's like most time with my client, I try to build a relationship with them, you know, and I do a 6 months follow up with everybody, 6 to 7 months follow up, but it's built on relationship, you know, and
well, it's all time.
It's all time, right?
People pay you because they don't want to look for how. They don't know how. You're the expert on that, so they don't know how. But also, they don't have the time. You know, people pay me because they don't have the time to sit down and calculate things and all this stuff. You know, it's like that. To your point, there's always a way for you to if you work hard and you dedicate time and you create something that people value, I definitely agree. It's
Right.
great.
I was a fireman 7 years, and in 7 years I wasn't making the money that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
It was making ends meet.
That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long
7 years is a long time to do
Right, and people don't want to admit it, but and that's how you feel. Man, you still got prejudice. Like, it don't matter what your color is. I'm putting in to go to training so I can become an instructor. I never make it, but you have some new guys come in, been there a couple months. They got the same training that you put in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting anywhere with this. No matter how much information you attain from it, no matter how many training you go for, if you're not getting paid for your knowledge, then it's like, okay, man.
That's like the military. I don't know if y'all ever heard what's called the E4 Mafia.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Like there's sergeants and everybody, and the E4 is no more than the sergeants. But like with the military, with the MOSs, there's only a certain in each MOS. There's only a certain amount of each type of rank can be in that position. So you might be smarter than your sergeant, but he got there before you.
Right.
Things like that.
We taught the Yellow Ribbon Foundation events for the Army National Guard. So all the Georgia National Guard members, any members that were like leaving the country or coming back, we were doing like market updates and stuff like that. The E4 Mafia is definitely a thing.
It's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. Well, that was all my questions. At this point, we open the floor for y'all. Anybody got any announcements? Got anything going on? Want to tell the people?
Today, you've been kind of quiet. And you've been kind of quiet. Come on,
Did you learn
what's Bree up to?
What did you learn today, Bree?
I learned about trading. about the financial.
About whatever it is.
Bree already been here before. She said she got her views already.
I'm here to promote.
That's
And learned about the real estate.
I've learned some things.
It's always
I definitely learned about real estate.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, real estate, a lot of people overlook, they think it's hard, but it's not. It's not hard at all. As long as you put yourself in position, man, especially when you got whenever you selecting a realtor, make sure they got your best interest in hand. Make sure that they going over and beyond, they communicating with you, they communicate with the seller's agent or the buyer's agent to make sure that, that transaction. Now, some things cannot be controlled, and you can vouch, a lot of people can vouch that, man, sometimes all the people outside of your control will do things, but real estate, there are ways where you can get in real estate without putting any money down. Without you can flip without using your own money. There's different ways to do it. You just got to know how to do it. So it's definitely an income pool.
A lot of people have like crazy, like when they buying a house store. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't have one like that. I mean, we had a last minute thing, but it was just like, compared to everybody else, it wasn't even that serious. So I don't have no crazy like story. Yeah. So that's why I send them to you. I owe that to you because I don't have no crazy story.
Right.
Man, I can't.
That's a really good advertisement. You should record that. Yeah, he didn't have he said it was a normal process. That's the best idea.
I mean, mine was quick. We didn't have anything out of the ordinary. One thing we did have was me. Of course, because again, I didn't tell them about all my accounts. Yeah. So it was a weird stage where I think they thought I was money laundering.
No. Like 3 days before.
Yeah, they was like, where did this money, whose money is this? It's my money.
Yeah, it's my money.
But can you prove it? I can prove it.
I would say that the education is the most important piece, and the relationship is what allows you to absorb that education. Like I know for us, like, it's the fact that you have people who are word of mouth, like, it's very similar to us, and that you don't have to try hard to do what's right by people. Right? Doing what's wrong for people is much harder.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you work in like this industry, or you have clients like he does and we do, like, you come across a lot of competition and a lot of stories.
And a lot of
personalities. And the biggest thing is, like, find somebody, whoever it is, on whatever professional they are, find somebody that you trust, you feel like is doing the right thing. Double check their work. Always do your research. Always educate and do your research. But, like, find somebody that does right by you. Because that is
your work
the
speak
biggest
for
thing.
you.
Yeah.
Your work speak for you. Just like making a painting. You know, if you paint it good, you put on the wall. You know, it's gonna speak for itself.
That's right.
And you know, honestly, I can say that my work speak for itself.
Oh yeah.
I used to, you know, try to host open houses and all that, and I never got anywhere with it. I never picked up a client doing an open house. Never.
Open house like have people come check it out.
Yeah. Like they'll come, they'll look at it, you know, pretty much they just take advantage of your time. You know, now some realtors, they do get clients like that, but for me it wasn't a good avenue for me.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that helped me is I grew up in Warner Robins. I'm from here.
Yeah.
Went to school at Warner Robins. And I know a lot of people, so they word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, our biggest, like, one of the reasons why we've been successful is just because all of the ways that we have done things, like in terms of even just fees and all these things, we approached it from an aspect of like education. For a long time, we went through our whole planning process and didn't charge any fees for our time, just because we grew up poor and financial education is everything, and I wanted to put it in as many people's hands as absolutely possible, as quickly as possible.
Right.
So that's just the way we practiced. And like, you know, there's just not a whole lot of emphasis put into like seeking the professional help or seeking the guidance because, you know, oh, it's going to cost money. Or actually the biggest thing, like when it comes to financial literacy stuff, the biggest thing that keeps people talking to us is they don't think they have any money, or they don't think they have any reason. But you can't build wealth without understanding the foundations. Like you talked about foundation. You can't build wealth without understanding the building blocks. Because without those building blocks, the whole building's shaky. So, you know, like...
And you gotta make sure your money circulate, because if you try to just hold your money, it's not gonna do nothing. At a 0.1% maybe, you'll get a penny or something.
Well, inflation alone, if I won the lottery, what's today, August 16th?
Yeah.
If I won the lottery, August 16th of 2001, won $100,000, and I took that and I put it in a Folgers can, okay? Which is a coffee can, if you don't know, if you don't drink coffee. And I opened it up today because I was gonna go get me a Porsche. Because of the purchasing power lost on that $100,000, the Porsche I'd be able to buy would be worth $65,000, not $100,000. Over the course of 20 years, it's about a 35% decrease on your money, just in purchasing power alone. That's what inflation does. You know, you hear all these people freaking out about, you know, price of gas and all this stuff. That's inflation. We're about to probably enter into a time where inflation is going to be pretty bad, where prices are increasing. So you have to put your money places where it's not sitting in cash, because you're going to get left behind.
Right.
I mean, you know, I come across portfolios all the time where, like 2008, we have a notorious case we worked on where when 2008 happened, they sold because it scared them. They sold. They stuck everything in cash, and we were doing like portfolio comparisons and showing them like what we would have done because we do historicals. Like they were off by a few million, just what they lost in sitting there, and as opposed to what they could have gotten by. You know, it hurts, it stings, but that's the thing. Is like they didn't know. You know, that's the biggest thing. Like it doesn't matter what they have or who, you know, any of that. People just don't know what they don't know. You said it the first. People don't know what they don't know. So like, get the information. This is I'm glad you're doing this because I hope that, you know, maybe this will reach one, teach one.
Yeah, each episode been on different topics. Everybody said, I'll watch it. I think every episode somebody just said something, even, I don't know.
Yeah.
This one clearly blew it away as far as stuff I didn't know. This was a new level and new information, but y'all definitely set the bar high as far as you need to know what you're talking about.
Well, it's taboo.
Yeah.
It's taboo to talk about money. Right. You know, like, you know, even the concept of like me asking you what you make, when people would see that as rude. You know? But like,
I'd be happy, you know.
I know what you're saying.
That's what people ask me too, especially
You don't
with
need to know how much
trading.
you make. We still don't houses he's selling. He's doing alright. He's doing alright.
Especially with trading, people be like, before, you know, they purchase my program, and like when I was with IML, I had a hard time getting people to join me because I was just trying to learn how to trade. So when I did, go through that path and I found my own path, like I have like 30 mentees right now with my trading program.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like,
That's dope.
yeah, and it's like because it feels good to me because like when they call me and they have the computer set up, I love it because it's like, oh my God, I created for you to make money and I want to see everybody eat. I want to see everybody
You get
good.
that website, you already at 30.
Yeah, please, no, go
Right.
ahead, look at it real quick. Give me.
And that's
sign up.
that's why I say you gotta be careful about when people the realistic thing
Yeah.
because if I would have took that and not use it in an opposite metaphor, I probably wouldn't hear that and even though it took some time, or one thing I can say now is here it is 4 years later. This was 2017, so 4 years later. That was a goal of mine, so now it's like, okay, now what's gonna be the new goal or what's gonna be the new limit, and you go and you aim for that to build it up.
Yeah.
And it's not possible if you don't think it is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So y'all know how every episode ends. We end every episode with love. So I need you to tell one person who may not know, that means not your parents, not your kids, that you love them or appreciate them, and why.
That's awesome.
That's all you. That's all you.
I go first.
All right.
And I'm telling
You're
them.
not here. Talk to them.
My best friend Soraya.
Hold on, your best friend don't know you love her?
She doesn't at this time right now.
Okay.
I had to just like really push the appreciation out there.
Okay, talk to her.
She's you've been right there by me through these last couple of weeks or whatever, and I really appreciate it. I really do. It's been a long couple of weeks.
Yes. Who do I say I love? I do want to say I love David, my cousin David. Rest in peace. Because without him, I wouldn't have met Bree, and then without Bree, I wouldn't be able to meet all you wonderful people. So I do want to say, I love David just for still being here and like really helping expand me and everybody else. So.
Yeah, David was a great guy. I graduated with David. He was our class president. So I'm not gonna pretend me and David hadn't spoken probably since high school.
That's funny.
But
Everybody,
changed.
it's all love.
I think David had an impact on everybody that walked into a room.
Well, it can if you don't usually tell them. But
Oh, okay. If you don't usually tell them.
it's like if they already know you love them, then nah. Somebody who don't know.
Whoever just signed that paperwork was you. That's what he's loving right now. He's loving whoever just signed them closing documents. You want to go? I can go.
You go ahead.
Alright, actually, this is going to sound real cheesy, but I love everybody that's watching this because building a community is the only way that we're going to be able to fix any of these problems that we have, no matter what problems you think we have, because I think even that is something everybody disagrees on. It's something people disagree on. I think we can all acknowledge that the community and the local and all this stuff, like I said, I love that you're doing this because the more people that you bring together, that's how we do it. That's how we survive. So that's real cheesy, but that's all I can think.
It's great way y'all talking and networking. Like every episode, most of people usually leave here making money. Like with certain, the right person here. I do this and that. Like, I've seen people leave here making money. I see people after they come sit here together, they always talking on Facebook now. Like they need to know each other. So that's what it's for.
You should do an alumni. You should do like a reunion group.
I don't know. We got enough room.
We'll rent out a space or something. We'll make that happen for you.
Yeah, but that's what I love. Cause people, a lot of these conversations, I wouldn't have asked them that. Well, you ain't got to. I'll ask them that. Which they clearly are. Because the views is going up. So I'll ask them. You just watch. It's okay. But
nah, you ain't gonna get out of this. You ain't gonna get out of this. I can talk, but I gotta remember it too.
Well, I have to let my boy Goodman know, because if it weren't for him, I would have never got real estate, and that real estate just changed the whole dynamic of my whole life. So big shout out to him.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah, would have never considered it.
That's crazy. Well, all right. If you all don't have anything else to say, this was the Talk to Me Nice podcast, and we are done.
Okay.
D-Mark got that E on.